Yo, what's up, Grand Rising good people? How you doing? It's Coach Renz. Back to the live again. We're gonna start having more lives. I just decided that we're gonna start having more lives. So if you're joining me for the first time, what we do on this channel is that we break down the Bible. We are a deconstructionist channel from Christianity. All subject matters, most subject matters pertain to that. Sometimes we do delve into other subject matters. But if you are a person of like mind or you find this interesting, please hit that subscribe button, like the channel, follow the channel, share the videos, and so on and so forth. We're going to take about 5 minutes before we get started, give people a chance to get on. This we do this on Tuesday, but as the people who follow this channel know, I was on a cruise ship on Tuesday. I ain't gonna lie to y'all and say I could not have done the lives. It was possible, but cruise life. It's a good thing I was able to do just the videos that I did while we was out there. So we're gonna go ahead and go live on TikTok as well. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We gotta get TikTok up. Hope everybody's enjoying themselves, having a good weekend so far. Now we're gonna talk about the subject matter today is for the first part of this reading is going to be Deuteronomy 23 and 24. We left off on the other ones. If you are interested in seeing some of the older shows, the older lives of What's Wrong with the Bible, you can go to my YouTube page, click on my name, well, Coach Renz, or Why I Left Religion with Coach Renz, or Lorenzo Reed, Larenzo Reid. Go to the playlist, and you can find all the other books of Genesis, Leviticus, Numbers, and so on and so forth. But we are going to, as we normally do, read through Deuteronomy and 23 and 24 just so that the people don't think, oh, you're paraphrasing and all that kind of stuff. Nope, we're gonna read it exactly word for word and break down the bullshit that is of this book. Now, most of your comments, if you're on Facebook and YouTube, I know you guys can't see each other's comments. TikTok, I have StreamYard doesn't allow me to stream all three at the same time on the same page, so I can see everybody's comments. So I do see you guys over there. Please hit that like button, that subscribe button, but hit that like button so that the TikTok trolls don't get rid of the show. But we read through it verse by verse, break it down as to what's wrong with it. Chapter 23 is going to start out already just all into the bullshit already, so it's going to be good. If you have any questions, please keep your questions right now in dealing with the subject matter to which we're talking about. After we finish going through Deuteronomy 23 and 24, then any and all other questions, commentaries, we'll talk about anything you guys want to for a little bit while after that. I do try to post up on the Facebook and YouTube live the questions that people ask, but I read them out so that the TikTok people also know what's being read, know what's being said. But so Grand Rising, everybody who's joining the channel, I see everybody. I see Michael and um, what's that? Damn, I can't see it. 3AV. But I appreciate everybody for joining. We're gonna get started in just a few minutes here. Finally got a chance to catch me live. That's what's up. Um, but we're gonna have a good discussion. I'm fully relaxed. My mind is. I'm so pissed that when we was in Bimini, that I came to find out that the property to which you can see where the Bimini Road goes into the water, that that's private property. So we can do much love from the Bahamas. Which island, Roma? Which island, Ramon? I'm about to be mad at you. I'm telling you right now. We just left the Bahamas. We was in Bimini, and we was in Nassau. So, and y'all, and it's funny on the boat. On the boat, we was at Senior Frogs in Nassau, and on the boat ran into a young lady who follows the channel. Um, I'm gonna mess up her name, Jarnetta. Ran into a young lady, Jarnetta. Y'all, I did the video with her, so that was cool. San Salvador. That's in the Bahamas. Yeah. So, Grand Rising, everybody who just jumped on. So we're gonna go ahead and get started with this. 5 minutes. We're 5 minutes in, so we're gonna go ahead and get started because I know how y'all like to get to the question, to get to the other stuff as well. So we're gonna make it right. We're gonna make it right. Oh, allegedly where Columbus landed. Yeah. So just for y'all knowledge, I always announce where we're going to be, right? Either on video or on lives. So if you're ever in those places, let me know. And if we can meet up, that'd be great. So like on Monday, Monday and Tuesday, we'll be in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Wednesday and Thursday, we'll be in Asheville. Friday and Saturday, we'll be in Charlotte. And then back in Wilmington on Sunday. So if you're in any of those places during the time frames that I specified, let me know. All right. Yep, Brian. I've been working, man. Oh shit. My bad. YouTube. I mean TikTok. We took a little Caribbean cruise for 4 days, and it was celebrating Angelina's birthday. We had a good time. She had a good time. All right, so let's get into this. So today is Deuteronomy 23 and 24. It starts out by saying, "He whose testicles are crushed and whose male members are cut off shall not enter the assembly of the Lord." Now, understand, the assembly of the Lord for them was the place to which this God dwells, which at this time frame of their history, they didn't really have the concept of heaven and hell in the same way that we have today. They just had the basic concept of Sheol of everybody going to the grave. The Jews haven't even came up with the concept, or the Israelites, Hebrews hadn't come up with the concept of even the Sheol and Abraham's bosom at this time frame. It is not until you get into the first century that they establish a more of a heaven or hell. So, but to be in the present into the assembly means being around the people and in the house to which this God dwells in, because these henotheistic people believe that their deities dwelled in their sanctuaries. So, as someone who is unclean, someone who has committed certain types of sins or whatnot, could not be in the presence of this God. Now we know when we get to the New Testament, Jesus and Paul are saying that there are going to be those who make themselves eunuchs, who cut off their ping, who cut their balls off. That these people, are still able to go to heaven, because the religious conceptions of heaven and hell have now changed by the time we get to first century, and so people are thinking about it differently. And you can look at this as a somewhat of a contradiction, because the Old Testament God is saying, if you it doesn't give you like if somebody did it to you or if you did it yourself, but basically you get your balls cut off, you get your ping cut off, you can't go to heaven, whether you do it on purpose or not, or somebody else does it or not. So this is the Old Testament thing, and Jesus and Paul try to talk differently about it, which is either you're gonna say it's a contradiction or this God changes his mind, right? Finally seeing me live, appreciate it, glad you're here. Life said, now I can say crushed nuts are in the Bible. Yes, they are. You know, the Bible has a whole lot of sexual overtone. This God is very much concerned about men's ping and women's poom pooms, in this Bible quite often. So it's very interesting that they talk about it so much. TikTok, I need y'all to hit up that love button a whole bunch of times so we get to 1,000. So the trolls can't get rid of the channel, can't get rid of the live because they be trying. And you're right. What's that? Jesus, Osu. I'm Minos. I know Minos. I'm gonna call you Minos because I'm pretty sure I'm saying that right. You got that that accent that glue at the end of that. I'm not sure if I'm saying it right. But yeah, many Christians don't read this book, and this is why they don't know what's actually in it. Yet they will argue it. You know. But let's continue. Since according to this part, you ain't got no ping. You ain't got no poom. You ain't got no balls. You can't go into heaven. We're kind of like, what are they saying about women? it is almost like there's an overtone within this Old Testament that when it talks about being in the presence of this God, that for the overwhelming majority of it, it's just men. Like women don't get to participate in being in the presence of it. The women Levites who are in the Levite clan, they don't get to do none of the stuff. It's only the men. They don't get to become priestesses, which is odd because during this era and time frame, most other cultures had priests and priestesses, but they don't get to do nothing but just sit there and have babies for the most part. So even in it's talking about the assembly, it didn't say anything. Well, if a woman has her breast cut off, should she not be able to enter the assembly as well? Like there's no restrictions on her. So you can take it one way or another. You can say that women don't have any restrictions, or you can say they're just leaving women out. They just don't give two shits about women. You can say, one way or the other, right? So let's continue. Verse 2. No bastard shall enter into the assembly of the Lord, even to the 10th generation. None of his descendants shall enter the assembly of the Lord. Now you're going to find that in other versions, it doesn't say no bastards. It'll say that no unlawful marriages. So um, if a man were to marry someone if an Israelite rather, were to marry someone of a different culture who wasn't Israelites or not even an ite, then a non-Semitic person, then that person wouldn't be able to enter this assembly, and therefore, and they're punished down to the 10th generation. I would imagine giving time for the blood to be changed out, you know. But it's basically in this version of it, the Revised Standard, which is supposed to be the most accurate to date of translations, uh, is basically saying that if a Israelite marries, has a child with anyone else who's not in Israel, who's not an ite, then they are punished. Because we got to remember, like Ruth was a Moabite, right? Which we're going to get into the Moabites here in just a second. Ruth is a Moabite, so she's still a Semitic person. Hittites, Canaanites, all the ites are Semitics. The Assyrians are Semitic people. The Arcadians are Semitic people. Even the Babylonians are Semitic people. Even the Egyptians are Semitic people, because Semitic just means the language, a common language. It really has nothing to do with race or anything of that nature. And at this time frame, it's just of this writing, which this is being written between the 700s and 500s BCE, is primarily brown people who are writing this. So the all the ites relatively look the same. It's just different cultures. But it's saying if you were to get with somebody who's not a ite, then that person is punished to the 10th generation, which is going to be weird because later on it's going to remind you and say that uh, we're going to get later on in this chapter or the next, but this chapter or the next is going to say that the sins of the father are not cast down to the son. That you live and you thrive, or you suffer based on your own sins. Uh, so there's going to be a little bit of contradiction. Now, I mentioned Ruth on purpose because this next verse, no Ammonite or Moabite shall enter the assembly of the Lord, even to the 10th generation. None belonging to them shall enter the assembly of the Lord forever. Forever. Y'all caught that, right? Forever. Because they did not meet you with the bread and with water on the way when you came forth out of Egypt. And because they hired against you Balaam, the son of Beor, from um, Petor of Mesopotamia, to curse you. Nevertheless, the Lord your God will not hearken to Balaam, but the Lord your God turn the curse into a blessing for you, because the Lord your God loves you, and you shall not seek their peace and their prosperity all the days forever. Now, this is interesting. A couple of reasons why this is interesting. Uh, it is saying that the Ammonites and the Moabites shall never enter into the 10th generation. Yet Ruth was a Moabite. Her son Obadiah, his son Jesse, his son David. So we've only went what, 3 generations from a Moabite to David, Yet David becomes the king of these people. But according to Deuteronomy, David, Obadiah, Jesse should have all never been able to enter into the assembly of God, but yet they became king. So what this demonstrates is that as these people are writing these books, because the book of Psalms is written much later, but as they are writing, and it was not written by David, but as these books are being written between the 700 BCE up until about 100 BCE, that there is no univocality in this. They don't match up. The scribes are not writing as if they were all in agreement, or that they all even had knowledge of what the other ones were writing. Because as soon as they wrote this part, they just excluded the line of David to the 10th generation, and definitely 7 more generations after David. So Solomon should not have been king. Solomon should not have been able to build a temple. His son should not have been able to continue, and so on and so forth. Which, you know, goes all the way up to your Jesus character, because Jesus comes through this line, according to this story. Now, so that's one jacked up thing in that portion that we just read, which is one of the reasons why we walk away from this book, right? Gerald said that's why you walked away from this book. Yep, that's why we stopped reading it. The other part is the whole aspect is revisionist history when it comes to the whole thing about Balaam, right? If you were to read other versions of this, like your NIVs and your King James and all that, it doesn't get into as much detail about Balaam as this one does. It makes Balaam out to be the villain, when Balaam did more like what this version of it says, is that he was called to give a curse, but instead he gave a blessing because this guy controlled him to give the blessing. Um, he's kind of like it's like they're name dropping and throwing Balaam under the bus for doing his job, but when he came to do the job, he was like, "Nah, I ain't cool with that." So, and y'all know the whole thing about Balaam. We covered it when we was going through that part of the Bible with the talking donkey and him beating the shit out of the donkey until the angel showed up, and how stupid that was. I'm gonna kill you for beating that donkey. Well, the donkey was acting a freaking fool because of you, angel. And you want me as if I didn't see you, so I had no understanding, but you want to punish me for it. And here they're still trying to throw Balaam a little bit under the bus because he was called to do his job. It's not like Balaam was a Hebrew who was going against the other Hebrews. You know, he was just a dude who was a magician going to do his thing, and that's it. And then, but didn't do anything, didn't punish him. But he's saying that the cause is because they called Balaam to do it, just simply because they called him. That was enough. So it's a little bit of revisionist history on here. So to continue, you shall not abhor. And this one, if you're a Hebrew Israelite, I need you to, I need you to internalize this for all my Hebrew Israelites, especially the ones in America. I need you to internalize this, right? You shall not abhor an Edomite, for he is your brother. You shall not abhor an Egyptian, because you were a sojourner in his land. The children to the third generation that are born to them may enter the assembly of the Lord. Now, I don't know how much contact you guys have dealt with Hebrew Israelites, but Hebrew Israelite will claim that Esau was white. Esau is the progenitor of the Edomites. The Edomites are the white people. The white people have taken over Judaism. The white people have done all these terrible things to black people. And so they hate the Edomites because this God also says that he loved Jacob and hated Esau. And so they talk so much shit about the Edomites. And I've even seen videos of them telling passerby white people that one day they're going to be able to beat them and rape them and kill them and all these sorts of things. But and they always claim in Deuteronomy as their main book. The Hebrew Israelite love them some Deuteronomy. But I guarantee they don't read this part. They ain't reading Deuteronomy 23. Next time you're talking to a Hebrew Israelite, question them about Deuteronomy 23, verse 7. Verse 7. You shall not abhor the Edomites, for he is your brother. So for any Hebrew Israelites who may be on here, the fact that y'all call Edomites white people, those are your brothers. Just want you to know that. Just want y'all to know that. And then don't be mad at the Egyptians, because the Israelites lived in their country for a while. They took them in during a famine, according to this story. Now we know the truth is that there is absolutely zero proof of this time 400 years in Egypt, 200 and some odd of those years being enslaved. So we don't have any of that. Uh, Jose, we try to stay with the subject matter until we get to the end, and then we answer questions that are different from the subject matter. But you do make a good point here. Jose is saying, uh, and I hope I'm saying your name right. I was debating a Christian about this yesterday, uh, and he tried to justify it by saying that we shouldn't question God, we should just trust Him. And that has been one of the weak excuses that many Christians use, because they don't want to deal with the reality of the situation of what this God is saying. So they will say that over and over again. Well, I just trust God. God created everything, so He got the right to do whatever He wants to do to the people that He want to do it to. And and that's just asinine as hell to me. That I'm just going to trust this guy simply because some book written by some people thousands of years ago who couldn't get their shit together. Couldn't make the math. You would think that they would have read all the old stuff and know what they can say and what they cannot say, in order to make sure that people today couldn't come back and look at it and say, y'all a little bit off. These two parts don't match. This don't match. But they weren't doing that. They didn't do that. So let's continue, because that's all they're gonna say about that. Then we gotta get into some sanitary rules, which is, y'all know ain't all right in my mind, right? But just go with me for a second. So when you go forth against your enemies and in the camps, then you shall keep yourself from every evil thing. Okay? Don't do evil stuff when you go against your enemy. If there is among you any man who is not clean by reason for what chances to him, of what chances to him by night, then he shall go outside the camp. He shall not come within the camp, but when evening comes, he shall bathe himself in water, and when the sun is down, he may come within camp. So if any man among you who is not clean by reason of what chances him by night, in your other versions of it, it will say, what they're talking about here is when a man has a wet dream. So he's not clean by the reason of what chances him at night. Uh, Other versions will say having a basically it's a wet dream. I forgot the word that it uses. Goddamn. He has a emission at night. So when a man has a wet dream, he got to get up, leave to go outside the camp, and then when sunrise, right before sunset, uh, he wash himself, and then he's clean. So no wet dreams. A wet dream makes you unclean. So when all of us guys were young, having them wet dreams, and don't lie to me and act like you ain't never had one. You lying ass liar. If you say that. But if you have a wet dream, you are considered unclean. What's up, people? Grand Rising, everybody who just popping on. Mahendra, Eric, Jeremy, Keith. So no wet dreams. So this guy does not like you having wet dreams. Well, we know he killed Onan because he wouldn't ejaculate in his brother's widow so that they can have a baby, and it be his brother Er's baby. So we know he don't like the jizzing on the floor, and evidently, since you can't control yourself at night, when you're sleeping and you having the wet dream, then you're considered unclean for something that we know today is a perfectly natural occurrence. I remember telling my son, this is going to happen to you one day. When it does, just clean yourself up. And if you want to talk about it, call me in the morning. He was embarrassed as hell to have that conversation. Thought I'd just throw that in there. All right, let's continue. So from the wet dream, let's continue. Verse 12. So we're going to go from wet dreams to taking a shit. It's just, we just do just be getting random. It just goes random. The second law here just goes random. You shall have a place outside the camp, and you shall go out to it. And you shall have a stick with you, with your weapons. And when you sit down outside, you shall dig a hole with it, and turn back and cover up your excrements. Because the Lord your God walks in the midst of your camp to save you and give you stop laughing, and give up your enemies before you. Therefore, your camp must be holy, that he may not see anything indecent among you and turn away from you. So I got a couple of problems of why this book just don't make sense. All right, of how it contradicts itself. In this version of Deuteronomy, they've anthropomorphized this God and saying that this God is walking around. But a Christian will say that God, and even later on in here, they're going to say that God is omnipresent and that he's astral, he's spiritual, he's everywhere. He sees everything you do, right? But here, because God is anthropomorphized, he's walking around in the village with you. Hey, Angelina. Hey, Tim. Hey, Jose. Hey, Kia. Hey, I see the baby getting bigger. Yeah. You know, but don't be taking a shit inside the camp around God. You got to go outside the camp where he can't see it. Now, how is the omnipresent God not noticing when you taking a shit if he everywhere? He gonna see it. Now, we know that this is written as a basic thing of hygiene. We still do this in the military. Like, I remember us having we did we was either in Oman or Yemen. I can't remember because they both look the same to me. And we were doing some little operations, little training operations, and we put the latrines up on outside the camp, up on the side of the hill, which was messed up because if you weren't up there taking a shit, you looking down at everybody looking up at you taking shit, which was stupid. But we still practice today. It's good hygiene. You don't want to have shit around you, but they gonna blame it on this guy. With God walking around, and this land is holy that he walking around on because his foot, the land that God's foot touches is holy. But he don't want to watch you take a shit. You know, he don't want to smell your shit. Your shit stink. Is effectively. And Tim is saying shut the door. No, there was no door. It said just sit on the ground. When you sit down outside, and then you dig a hole and you cover it up because don't nobody want to smell it. You got to cover up the shit. But yeah, so we went from wet dreams to taking a dump, all in one couple of verses of each other. So let's talk about slaves. Wet dreams, taking a dump to slavery. You shall not give up to his master a slave who has escaped from his master to you. He shall dwell with you in your midst, in the place which he shall choose within one of your towns, where it pleases him best. You shall not oppress him. All right. One, this is only really talking about Hebrew slaves. This is talking about Israelite slave to Israelite slave. This is not talking about when they made slaves of foreigners. So in one sense, you can say that in American slavery, when they would send the slave catchers to go get people and they would tell on them, they weren't wrong. But in another sense, If you took it as a general thing, then they were wrong to be turning them people in. But this is really just talking about Hebrew slave to Hebrew slave. But the problem still here is that there are slaves. That instead of this guy saying, hey, when somebody is escaped from slavery, they are no longer a slave, but they are free. Nope. Let them live with you, let them dwell with you, but they're still a slave. Do not oppress them. How about just nobody should own a slave? That would make more sense. That would be an actual kind and loving God. But we know that's not what we're reading about. We're reading about an evil genocidal maniac who love him some treachery and slavery and all this stuff and some barbecue.
Oh, shit.
Yep. But he don't like shit though. Maybe that's where we got the phrase, man, take that shit outside. Maybe we got that phrase wrong. Man, take that shit outside. Nobody want to hear that shit. Nobody want to see that shit. All right, let's continue. All right, so we now talked about um, wet dreams, taking a shit, slaves. Okay, let's talk about prostitutes. There shall be there shall be no cult prostitutes of the daughters of Israel, neither shall there be cult prostitutes of the sons of Israel. You shall not bring the hire, you should not bring the hire of a harlot or the wages of a dog into the house of the Lord your God in payment for any vows, for both of these are an abomination to the Lord your God. Now, if they had stopped in 17 with that whole part, it would have simply meant do not have shrine prostitutes, male and female, like other tribes have. So, other Canaanite tribes, you have shrine prostitutes. You remember when your boy, was it Jacob, I believe? No, not Jacob. Who was it? Yeah, it was Jacob. Who was it? With Tamara? When she posed as a prostitute, he got that pom pom and gave her staff. He gave her staff as a for payment until he came back, and he was looking for the shrine prostitute, but she was a shrine prostitute of another deity. I think that's Jacob. I'm not sure if that was Jacob or not, but I think that's Jacob. Nah, it can't. Couldn't be Jacob. That was somebody else. That was somebody else. I think. One of y'all look it up. Tell me who that was. Who that was. But anyway, if they had stopped with just verse 17, it would simply just be the Israelites won't have shrine prostitutes like the rest of them. But because this God of the people who's writing this book, they like their money, you shall not bring the hire of a harlot or the wages of a dog, which is the male prostitute, into the house of the Lord to pay for any of your vows. So understand, I know people like to say that tithes is not money, but there are other offerings that this God took money that the Israelites had to pay money for. Like if you had a child, you had to pay shekels of silver if there weren't enough Levites to of Levites to cover your child's birth because having a child was a sin. Huh? Oh, Judah. Thank you. I got Angelina over here. So that was Judah who was getting it on with the shrine prostitute. Thank you. Thank you. That's why I didn't mess him up. Judah, Jacob, close in name. Like Catholics prefer cash, but because they add the monetary aspect in it, what they're literally saying now is that, hey, I'm God. I don't want your prostitute money. You keep your prostitute money to yourself, unless you're a male prostitute servicing women. Because in other versions of this, it says the female prostitutes, and it talks about the male prostitutes who service other men. And so it's specific. So male prostitute gigolos who service the women got to take that money. And I'm sure if anything that happens today in society happened back then. So I'm sure Gigolo Tony was walking around, had some sugar mama, and was getting it in. Because there were a few ways for a woman to be rich, to be well off, or to have access. Or if she wasn't well off, certainly women had access to money. that they could be sneaking around, you know, taking it from their husbands, taking it from their fathers, right? But this guy don't want no prostitute money, basically. Prostitute money dirty, according to him. So we talked about shit, talked about prostitutes, talked about slaves. Let's just keep going. Now let's talk about, and we since we got into money right there, let's talk about some more money. You should not lend upon interest to your brother. Interest on money, interest on victuals, interest on anything that is lent or interest, lent for interest. To a foreigner, you may lend upon interest, but to your brother you shall not lend upon interest, that the Lord your God may bless you in all you undertake in the land to which you are entering to take possession of it. Which we know that this still happens today in certain cultures, um, where like Ethiopians will lend to each other and not charge interest, but when it comes to somebody outside of the group, them will charge interest. Now, I do know a few Ethiopians who won't charge interest to anybody, period. But according to this, this is only, you don't charge interest just to the people who are of your same religion. Anybody else? This is the revised standard version, Marcus. The revised standard version is supposed to be the most accurate to the translations, uh, and it's supposed to have corrected all the mistranslations from other versions, like where the NIV has some mistranslations, the King James has some mistranslations, and so on and so forth. Uh, But in this situation, now the NIV is horrible, so I don't necessarily read from the NIV anymore when I'm doing this. I used to 2 years ago, but not anymore. But this is also, when I look at things like this is also showing how this guy loves to maintain that separation. But it's understandable because later on in another video, we're going to get to the part where he says that Elion gave Yahweh the Israelites, the Hebrews, as his portion. So this God is only concerned about the ones that Elion gave to him. He's not concerned about what Shamash got and the people that Shamash got, or that Baal got, the people that Baal or Mot or any of the other deities, or Elnana or any of the other deities got. He's only concerned about the ones that he got, which is why he shows favoritism towards them. And he's saying that, hey, don't charge your own brother's interest. It'd be great if we just didn't charge interest at all. Of course, I don't know how banks will make money then, but so be it. So anyway, let's continue. Uh, I'm sorry, I'm always laughing when people tell me stuff like, "You got to research Elion," making the assumption that I haven't, simply because I may disagree with what they're saying. Come on now, but you're not saying anything. Why can't people just bring forth conversation instead of that? But anyway, come on, Keith, you can do better than that. I believe in you. Oh, sorry, Keith. I don't have my glasses on. So let me apologize, Keith. Let me apologize. Let me apologize. Let me apologize. I'm sorry, Keith. I ain't read that right. And if you've been following me for long enough, you know I will make a mistake, but I will correct. I will, when I'm corrected, I will apologize for it. My bad, Keith. I didn't read that right. Sorry. But yeah, it's a part in Deuteronomy. I can't think of where it's at right now. I think it might be in 25. So we might be talking about that on Tuesday. But I think it might be in 25, where Yahweh, Elion gave Yahweh his portion. When you study Elion, it's going to take you back to the fact that El Elyon was a Canaanite god deity, the Canaanite high god, and then Yahweh, he was married to Asherah. They had two children, Yahweh and Baal. They were the brothers. But then later on, Elion, Elion gets mixed with Yahweh, and then Yahweh is then married to Asherah. They have Mot and Baal, but then Asherah gets disposed of, and then it's just Yahweh. But that's like hundreds of years of traveling through this book and through history. Let me finish this chapter real quick, and then we will. Wait, no, let me see. Tim said he's sacrificing some smoked pork butt tomorrow. Just stupid. I don't blame you. I'm not sacrificing. I don't eat that. But usury, right? I think usury is. I don't. Interest is. It would be great if there were no interest. But this is why I tell you we got to use the flip side of interest. Christians like to say I'm gonna be lenders, not borrowers. I know y'all have heard that in churches so many times. We're gonna be lenders, not borrowers. I'm gonna steal a borrowing. But borrowing to me is not a bad thing when you're borrowing in order to make money. Utilizing interest the best way. You know, what is my opinion on the preservation of the Bible? That it has been preserved all that well. LaFleur, the LFD diggers is good. Yeah, strong as hell. If you get that Maduro or that Oscuro. But let's continue. Let's continue. Don't get me sidetracked yet. Don't get me sidetracked. Where we at? Where we at? Where we at? Da-da-da-da. I don't see nobody on TikTok ain't asking any questions. We good. We good. We good. When you make a vow to the Lord your God, you shall not be slack to pay it. For the Lord your God will surely require it of you. And it would be a sin in you. But if you refrain from vowing, it shall be no sin in you. You shall be careful to perform what has passed your lips, for you have voluntarily vowed to the Lord your God what you have promised with your mouth. If some of that sounds familiar to you guys, um, the whole thing about when Jesus said is not what goes in the mouth that defiles the body, but what comes out of the mouth that defiles the body. Um, he's basically talking. That portion is basically talking about this verse, these three verses, right here, because he's saying that the promises you make to this God, the vows you make to this God, that this God will hold you accountable for, and will demand it of you, right? And that's a good thing. you know, you make a promise, you should have to keep your promises, right? I mean, can we all agree? I think we can all agree if you make a promise, you should have to keep your promise. And this God is going to make you, right? Keep it. Kind of messed up Japheth though, and messed up this guy's credibility a little bit. Because if you think about the Japheth story, hey God, if you let me take my enemies, kick my enemies' asses, I vow that the first thing that comes out my door to greet me, I will sacrifice it as a burnt offering. Y'all know that in Judges 19. His daughter is the first one came out. I don't know if he expected a pig or a cow or a dog to come out of his house or a chicken. I think he expected his wife to come out of his house. He just want to get rid of that woman, right? But his daughter came out and he killed his daughter. And this guy was like, you got to do it. You made the vow, you got to do it. Even his daughter was like, you made the vow, so you got to do it. So this guy was cool. And he was cool with it because he also then allowed him to go conquer a bunch of other people. And this was the leader of Israel at the time. So this is why he had to do it. Because this guy said, whatever vows you make. That's why he's saying you should refrain from making vows. Because most people struggle with keeping their word. Period. That should be a lesson. That's a good lesson, period. Don't make promises. Because most of the time you're not going to be able to. Most people can't keep their promises. That's why if I try my best to only make promises that I know I can keep. Hell, even when I gamble, I will not make a bet with Angelina unless I already know the answer. I did it twice without already knowing the answer, and I lost. But this is why she won't bet me. When I say it was something recently, it was like, yeah, something about a road, like where something was at on a road or what road we was on or whatever. And I was like, nah, I bet you. She was like, nope, because she knew. You know, now I messed up on that one because I didn't realize the other road. The time we bet on the other road, it changes down the street. I was thinking of what it's called down the street, not what it's called at the exit, and that's the only reason you won. But anyway, so don't make any vows. But Japheth, this is why Japheth had to kill his daughter. And when they try to say that this God doesn't approve of that, this God was not in approval of that, this is when you go back to Deuteronomy 23, verse 21, and say that no, he made it very abundantly clear that if you make a vow, he's going to expect you to keep that vow. So even though the vow was to kill his daughter, the expectation of this God was still that he had to kill his daughter. Otherwise, Japheth would have been sinning if he hadn't killed his daughter. So this God is okay with human sacrifice if you make a vow to it. So when they were making vows to kill their children or whatever, they had to go ahead and do it. They had to do it. They all had to do it. So the last two verses in this chapter. When you go into your neighbor's vineyard, you may eat your fill of grapes. Wait a minute, before I read this part, I guarantee every Christian I read this part. I guarantee every Christian I read this part. And I'm gonna tell you why after I finish reading this part. When you go into your neighbor's vineyard, you may eat your fill of grapes, as many as you wish, but you will not put any in your vessel. When you go into your neighbor's standing grain, you may pluck the ears with your hands, but you shall not put a sickle to your neighbor's standing grain. I want to give y'all like a minute to see if you know why I'm saying I'm sure every Christian has read this part. Every Christian American has read this part. And especially if it's that first verse 24. Right? When you go into your neighbor's vineyard, you may eat your fill of grapes, as many as you wish, but you shall not put any in your vessel. Y'all know I'm getting ready to make a joke. So why would I say that every Christian in America has read that? When you go into your neighbor's vineyard, you may eat your fill of grapes, as many as you wish, and you shall not put any in your vessel. Y'all know I'm impatient. I'm not impatient though, actually, but it depends on what we're talking about. I don't like dead space on videos, so I'm trying to get you. Think the most ridiculous thing, and you probably have what's in my mind right now. I know Angelina don't like to be on here, but what do you think I'm thinking about based on that verse? When, yeah, when you.
Well, they're gonna make wine if they put them in the vessel.
No, ain't got nothing to do with making wine. Shanice says, I'm curious. This is stupid. And y'all gonna be like, oh.
No, I can't think of it.
You should. You probably just saw it about 30, 40 minutes ago.
I just saw it.
You would have just seen it 30, 40 minutes ago, possibly. What do Americans do in the grocery store?
Oh, stupid.
They walk around the grocery store, now grab a bag of grapes. They eating all the grapes as they walk around the damn grocery store.
See, I saw cherries, I see grapes. That's why.
They walking around the store, eating grapes, and they never have any problems with the fact that technically they just stole. They just stole by doing that. So I'm thinking they had to have read this verse that they walk around. The neighbor is the vineyard is the grocery store, and they and you know what? If I ever had if I let's say I went and did that and I had got a citation when I went to court, I would quote this. I'm like, well, Your Honor, the Bible says in Deuteronomy 23 verse 24, when you go into your neighbor's vineyard, you may eat your fill of the grapes, as many as you wish, but you shall not put it in your vessel. I couldn't put it in the shopping cart because that's my vessel. And I would read the other version where instead of saying vessels, it says basket, so that'll sound more closely related. If y'all are finding me for the first time, understand that I am not always serious. That there's a level of stupidity that I must have in order to have fun. But yes, it is saying now. In all honesty, this was written. In all honesty, this was written, and it actually was a good thing. uh, it was written to help poor people in their area, right? So you had people who were poor; they didn't have anything to eat, so they were able to go into the vineyards and eat some of the people's stuff. Yeah, today that's trespassing, but you were able to do that. When I was growing up, and I grew up without food all the time, but I knew where there were fruit trees in my town, and you can just go into those areas of the fruit trees, and you there was no. I grew up without food in the house, but there was no reason that you should be hungry. You just have to walk a mile or two to go to our Fairground Road, where there was a bunch of pear trees and plum trees and all that sort of thing. So what this was actually talking about, getting into the seriousness of it, what it was actually talking about was a helpful thing to poor people. All right. Um, but it was also telling the poor people don't take advantage of it. You know, don't start trying to put everything in your bags. Now that part I messed up because we bag that stuff up. I take it home, especially my grandmother's house, and she make all kind of jams and shit with it. But uh, it was actually to help the poor people in their community. Now, one of the things that if you wanted to mess with somebody about this one, in truth, then find one of them evangelical Christians who hate socialism and show them this verse, explain this verse, because this is more of a socialist mindset. But it's a good thing. So I'll tell you, for those who don't like the fact that I'm on here, there are times where I would say the Bible has something good to say. And this is one of those rare instances, and I mean to say instances, where the Bible had actually a good point to make. There should be places where poor people, I know we got a lot of gardens in a lot of communities, and those are good, those community gardens, but food should never be something that someone struggles to get. So I do agree with this part of it. So that's all of chapter 23. Let me look and see what y'all saying before I go to 24. Appreciate that, Christopher. I'm not self checkout has good deals. He said before I bought it, hello, God put it here for me and you, right? Take advantage. Your grandmother used to make you walk up the road to pick crab apples from the neighbor's tree. Yeah. Oh, and when it was like certain fruit berries time, like blueberries and muscadine, my grandmother was like, y'all gonna get some of that stuff. Jeremy said he used to get yelled at for eating the grapes because they were making wine. I'm with you. But yeah, so that is one good. So it had every now and then the Bible says something that's good. So we're gonna continue on to chapter 24. Shanice said, "What were we talking about? Oh, the fact that the Bible says that you should leave food, let poor people come into your garden, your vineyards, and uh, eat freely. But the poor people shouldn't take advantage of it. But that was relatable to how when some of us were kids, and I honestly think I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I think it's been some kind. I think the fruit companies committed to a conspiracy theory to get rid of the fruit trees that were growing wild in America because you can't hardly find fruit trees anymore that grow wild. Yeah. So that I'm serious. I'm gonna research that. It got to be a conspiracy because Marietta, where I grew up in Marietta, there were fruit trees and pecan trees everywhere, and those are the main trees that are all gone. It's got to be it's something. Somebody lobby for that bullshit. All right, so we're going to talk about marriage laws for about 4 verses, and then it's just going to go into a whole bunch of miscellaneous stuff. All right, so Eric said that's not a conspiracy, that's a fact. I'm with you. I think it is. When a man takes a wife and marries her, oh, before I read, I got in so much trouble for this verse right here because when I read this verse when I was a kid, and I went and you'll see, I'll explain why. But I got in trouble for these couple of verses here when I was a kid. When a man takes a wife and marries her, if he finds, wait a minute, if then she finds no favor in his eyes, because he has found some indecency in her, and he writes her a bill of divorce put it in her hands and send her out of his house, and she departs out of his house, and if she goes and becomes another man's wife, and the latter husband dislikes her and writes her a bill of divorce and put it in her hand and sends her out of his house, or if the latter husband dies who took her to be his wife, then the former husband, meaning the first one, who sent her away may not take her again to be his wife after she has been defiled, for that is an abomination before the Lord, and you shall not bring guilt upon the land which the Lord your God gives you for an inheritance. So, how did I get in trouble because of this verse? So there was a pastor that my family was under for a while, and I basically told him that he is sinning because he married his wife. His wife, his current wife at the time frame, was his first wife. They got divorced. She married somebody else. They got divorced, and then he remarried his first wife again. I'm sure all of you guys may know of some situation like that, right? So when I read this part, and I ain't gonna say his name. I don't even know if he's still alive, but I ain't gonna say his name. I know his kids though. But I was like, you shouldn't be able to be the pastor. I was probably about 14, 15 years old. And I was like, you shouldn't be able to be the pastor of this church because you are living in constant sin and you're okay with that sin. So therefore, how are you the pastor of this church? And he was like, what are you talking about? And I told him this verse right here. And then uh, that did stir up a little bit of a hoopla in the church. And then next thing I know, my family left the church. So it's one of those times I got my family kicked out of a church because I was asking questions. Um, but according to this Bible, and see back then I was I was strict about living according to the Bible, plain and simple. There was no if, ands, or buts. This is how I'm going to live my life as best as I possibly can, and I did that up until I was about 20. I was about 23, 24 when I started like and I was 27, 28 when I completely walked away from this Bible. But that was one of those parts. You can't go back to your first wife, you know. Even when somebody I know that's close to my heart did that, I was like, "You wrong." Back then, you wrong. Yeah, and it ain't gonna work. And I was saying it wasn't gonna work because of the Bible, because the Bible says right here, but it ain't work for another reason. But that's what I because I was living according to this thing here. So if a man cannot go back and marry his first wife if she got divorced from the second husband because he's defiled her. Now it's interesting. It's also talking about how this is basically controlling a woman's pum pum again, because what we have here is basically he went inside her, but now that another man has, you can't go back inside that again. You got to leave that alone, you know, unless the husband died. Now well, even if he dies, you still can't go back to it. So it's all that's it. There's nothing else to it. So ladies, you get 2 shots at it. 2 shots. You marry the first one. If it don't work, you can marry the second one. But you better be with that one until he died. But if he died before you, you can't marry nobody else. But this is why some women, after their husband died, they never remarry because of verses like this, right? So, uh-uh, can't do it. Yeah, and they gave and that was the other thing about this. Which demonstrates the timing of this being written, because they're giving certificates of divorce at this time frame, right? So they're writing this down. They're giving it. You're getting divorce papers. Most people don't think about the fact that they was given divorce papers. Now, of course, the Jesus character somewhat rebukes this whole part of this statement by saying that Moses suffered y'all the hardness of your heart to give you writs of divorce, but what God has put together, let no man tear asunder. But I can tell you right now, there were plenty of marriages that if there is this God, he ain't had shit to do with it. Plus, the marriages back then were not put together by God. It was daddies getting together and deciding who their children were going to marry, especially their daughters. Ooh, the sunlight is starting to come in the side. So let me go to the side a little bit so I can read some of your comments. So you realizing how messed up these ideologies are? Yeah. Yeah, and it's all about controlling a woman's poom poom and controlling inheritances as well. Because if she went off and had babies by the other man, then what, she gonna bring her kids? Are you supposed to give those kids an inheritance? Oh, poom poom and money is what it talks about. Is a big conversation here. All right, so let's continue with some miscellaneous. These next laws are gonna be all over the place, so don't think they're gonna be in one spot. Uh, when a man is newly married, when a man is newly married, he shall not go out with the army or be charged with any business. He shall be free at home 1 year to be happy with his wife whom he has taken. Boy, if you wanted to be a draft dodger, you could be a draft dodger. So the war going on, I don't want to go. Let me get married. I can't go now. I get to sit home for a whole year. Can't even charge him with any business. But the main reason that this was done is so that um, if somebody gets married, he leaves, his wife is there. You know how many times these guys say, "Oh yeah, I went to combat. I was gone for a year and I came back and my wife had a baby." That's and the timing is impossible for you who have conceived that baby. So this was to protect that lineage so that you can stay at home, be at home for a year, hopefully get your wife pregnant, and then that way, uh, in other versions it says to make the wife happy, but in this one it says to be home to be happy with his wife. This is so that he can get her pregnant, start his lineage, and have children, so that no other man could come in and get his wife pregnant. So that was the whole point of that, is just to stay home and get your wife pregnant. So you don't get to go fight for a year. Uh, we do have certain laws that are a resemblance of that. Like both me and my brother are my mother's only sons. So when Desert Storm kicked up, he was in theaters, and so they kept me just outside of theater uh, until he left in the middle of it, and then I went in. So they do that. So there are certain laws that certain aspects of that that's kind of kept. And yeah, the key. That's why David got Bathsheba pregnant. Then was like, "Hey, have her husband come back home," and he tried to make him go home and get some poom poom, trying to hide his adultery. All right, so let's go to another just different law. No man shall take a meal or an upper millstone in pledge, for he would be taking a life of a man. This one is a so if you don't know what a millstone is, they had the upper big old stone and the lower big old stone, and they spin them around, and it grinds the meal, it grinds the grains, the wheat. So it grinds the wheat so they can make their grains and then make their doughs and all this other kind of stuff. If somebody owe you something, don't go take their livelihood, because then how they ever gonna pay you back? For most of my guys on here, you will definitely understand it in this terms. A man falls behind on child support, and then they send him to jail. He loses his job, and yet they still expect him to pay the same amount in child support. But it could take him 6-8 months to get another hearing so that the judge can say that, okay, you don't have a job now, or you're making less money now. So, because when you go to a job and say, well, I got fired. Why'd you get fired? Because I went to jail for 10 days for child support and they fired me. Now that company don't want to hire your butt. So you just took his livelihood away. So even though he was slack, he's going to be real messed up now. So basically it's saying, don't take away a person's livelihood for a pledge that they owe you. So that's actually a good thing. Like if somebody's working as an Uber driver and you want to hold their car in collateral because they haven't paid you, don't take their car, because how they going to pay you? They damn sure ain't paying you now. They can't get to work. They can't work. So that's actually a good one. I can get down with that one. Yeah, like Life said, he almost lost his CDL over child support. Because trust me, shit happens. It happened to me. Business was great, but then business went down for a couple of years during the whole the .com and the housing bubble. When it burst, shit was tight. So that's actually a good one. It might be a couple other good ones in here. If a man is found stealing one of his brethren, the people of Israel, and if he threatens him as a slave, and if he treats him as a slave or sells him, then that thief shall die. So you shall purge this evil from the midst of you. So yeah, it's a catch-22 on that child support thing. But this is where a lot of Christians will go and say, no, the Bible is against slavery. It says if a man steals one of if a man steals another man, what they will skip out on is the fact that it's only talking about stealing another Israelite, kidnapping. Your version may say kidnapping, but it's only talking about kidnapping another Israelite. It has nothing to do with you kidnapping someone from a different group. This is why the colonizers had no problem kidnapping Africans when they got tired of buying them, because they are not kidnapping their own people. They never kidnapped, like the Brits, the Saxons weren't kidnapping the Irish. They did indentured servitude with them because they were at this time frame looked upon to be brothers in a certain sense, just being whiteness, because that's when white was created. But that was looked upon, we the same tribe, so I can't enslave you. But these brown people, black people, I can enslave. And even in this part, I can kidnap you because you're not of my own brother. Now, it only says though there's a death penalty if you kidnap your brother and send them into slavery or treat them as a slave. If you simply just kidnap them for a ransom, then you shouldn't be killed. There is a loophole. There's a loophole. I will find the loopholes and stuff, but there is a loophole there. I just kidnap you. I might get in trouble, but I'm not going to die. But if I treat you like a slave, yeah, you know, sell you off as a slave, yeah, but that's only to your brother. So even though most people don't like when I say stuff like this, not that slavery is right, it is completely wrong, period, in any shape, form, or fashion. But the European slavery, the transatlantic slavery, the trans-Sahara slavery was not against what the Bible teaches or the Quran teaches. You can make slaves of foreigners. So that's why they were following this book, which is one of those big reasons why I had to walk away from this book, because this book is justifying what happened to my ancestors. But even if I was white, I would walk away from this book because it would be justifying what my ancestors did to other people. Which is why when people say, you know, this book is from African religions, no, it's not. But even some of those African religions, I still wouldn't get down with them because they messed up too. Not getting down with that either. All right, let's continue. Let's continue. Yeah, they got the part as long as they don't die in a couple of days. Yep. Then the slave master is not punished. That's in Leviticus like 20, 25, 26. Yes, Abraham religions are very monstrous. All right, so what we read? That was verse 7. So verse 8. Take heed in an attack of leprosy. Be very careful. Be very careful to do according to all that the Levitical priests shall direct you, as I command them. So you shall be careful to do. This part should have ended right there, but this guy loves to remind you of how he screwed somebody over. So it could have just ended there, which means the Levitical priest said to send the person outside the camp, and they had to do certain washings for 7 days. And after 7 days, the priest check them, see if the skin disease is gone, and they can come back into the camp. That should be it. Hey, remember, just do what the Levitical priests tell you to do as far as curing this skin disease. But instead, this guy got to throw some daggers because he petty like that. Remember what the Lord your God did to Miriam on his way as you came forth out of Egypt. Do y'all remember what happened in that story? That's in Numbers 12. Right? That's in Numbers 12. So if you don't remember what happened, and I'm not going to make you go back and watch the whole video when we covered Numbers 12 and what's wrong with the Bible on the YouTube channel playlist. See how I threw that in there? But in Numbers 12, both Aaron and Miriam had a problem with Moses being married to an Egyptian woman, right? Both Aaron and Miriam came to Moses talking shit. This guy admonished both. The guy had something to say to Aaron and Miriam, but only Miriam did he give leprosy to. He didn't do shit to Aaron. Matter of fact, Aaron was the one who pleaded, man, don't let Miriam be like that. Come on now, hook up. Don't do that to her. All right. Moses wasn't saying shit, but only Aaron has something to say. But it's another one of those instances where this book treats women like trash because Aaron had something to say about it. Why wasn't Aaron also punished with leprosy? Why only Miriam being punished with leprosy? That's the male dominant patriarchal bullshit of this book. Is that if it's a bad thing that's going to happen, it's going to happen to a woman in this book. Right? Bad things happen to dudes too, but you don't hear many stories of good things happening to women in this book. Even when people like to point out Esther, I'm like, okay, what, she had to sell herself and give up her poom poom and be the best poom poom that Xerxes got in order for her to become the queen and save the Hebrews. It's not like he was like, oh, she's so intelligent and she makes such good conversation and she just understands me. No, one night with the king. Y'all know what happened with one night with the king? Boom, boom. I don't understand how women follow this book. Not even a little bit. All right, but let's continue. But that was some bullshit. They didn't have to throw that out there. They could just left it at verse 8 and didn't have to add verse 9 in there at all. Number verse 10, when you make your neighbor a loan of any sort, you shall not go into his house to fetch his pledge. You shall stand outside, and the man whom you make the loan shall bring the pledge out to you. And if he is a poor man, you shall not sleep in his pledge. When the sun goes down, you shall restore to him the pledge, that he may sleep with his cloak and bless you. And it shall be righteousness to you before the Lord your God. So basically, oftentimes when a pledge was being made, the person somebody was given a loan, the pledge to pay the loan back would be that they would give them one of their cloaks, right? Um, but don't go into their house and take their shit. Like going down, I'm gonna pick out which cloak I want to pick out because I saw you wearing the green cloak 3 days ago, and I actually like the green cloak. It's not, so it's saying don't go in their house and just take their stuff. But then it's saying that if the dude is poor and he only got one cloak, then yeah, still accept the cloak as a pledge, but at night, get a poor man his cloak back so that he won't go to sleep cold. Ooh, I'm glad that sun went behind that cloud because I couldn't read. But he didn't want to go to bed cold. So that's actually a pretty decent thing right there. it's basically saying you need to treat poor people with some dignity, you know. Don't and not take advantage of poor people, so that the man ain't saying, "Well, I know I borrowed 15 shekels from Mr. Johnson, but Mr. Johnson got my only cloak, and at night, now I might walk around all day without my cloak, but at night, Mr. Johnson gonna bring me my cloak back so I can be warm when I'm sleeping, so I can get up and I'm fresh and I'm ready to go to work because I gotta pay Mr. Johnson back at 15 shekels, you know." So that's actually a pretty decent thing to have in there, not taking advantage of poor people. All right, right, Mia. Mia said God did a lot of the God of yesterday did a lot of talking with the people back then. Don't be saying shit now. And this Bible can use some serious updates. Some serious updates. All right, so let's continue. We're almost done with this chapter, actually, I think. No, we're not. Yes, we are. Uh, verse 14. You shall not oppress. Y'all know Christian America is not listening to verse 14 and 15. You shall not oppress a hired servant who is poor and needy, whether he is one of your brethren or one of the sojourners who are in your land within your towns. You shall give him his hire on the day he earns it, before the sun goes down, for he is poor, and set his heart upon it, lest he cry against you to the Lord, and it be a sin to you. Now y'all know that in today's world, they take advantage of the migrant workers, they take advantage of the factory workers, they take advantage of any job where you are easily replaced. You are taking it, they will take advantage of you. This is why you got to keep your head on a swivel and keep a mind on your industry, because if you are in a easily you everybody can flip burgers, all right? Everybody can press buttons at the Walmart. Everybody can work at the what's that place that they just walked out on in Waffle House. Ain't a hard job. It doesn't take a lot of skill. Is what I'm saying. Doesn't take a lot of skill. Doesn't It's not neuroscience. Neurosurgery. It ain't nothing like that. So, but it's saying don't take advantage of those people, right? You should pay them a daily wage, and you should pay them every day. Don't hold back their pay. Taking advantage of the people. That's happened to me once. I was working for this company. I didn't know the company was going bankrupt, but them jokers still had us in there teaching. Next thing I know, got a chair up under the door, and they owed me like 4 paychecks. My dumb ass kept going to work though, because I was thinking they're gonna get it. Okay, they kept giving excuses as to why the checks weren't coming. Yeah. But it's saying don't do that to people. Pay people when you're supposed to pay them. So if you ever become a business owner, there were times for me that's something that I took to heart when I was Christian. I still take it to heart to this day. There were times where I made sure my employees get paid, and I didn't pay the rent on where I was living, because that would be wrong for those people to have worked. They did the work just because we didn't make enough money for me to pay for everything. Pay the employees, resupply, pay the rent for the building. They had their order. Sometimes, a couple times, the rent for the building wasn't there. But that's what it says. So that's a good one. That's a good one. Ah, the sun reflection is messing me up a little. The father shall not put to death. No, the father shall not be put to death for the children, nor shall the children be put to death for the father. Every man shall be put to death for his own sin. So that's a good one. Because too many times, like when we look at this story of Noah get off the boat, he get drunk. His son Ham come in, see him butt ass naked, even though it's Noah's fault that he was drunk and butt naked. It really wasn't Ham's fault. Ham just came into the tent like he normally do to see his daddy. He didn't know his daddy was laid out butt naked drunk. But then Ham goes and tells the other brothers instead of covering him up. And because there's nothing about Ham mocking him in the book, he tell his brothers. His brothers come out, they cover him, they walk in backwards, cover him up so they don't see his nakedness. Noah get mad, and what does he do? He put a curse on his grandson, Canaan. Really, I just think that was just a way for the Hebrews, the Israelites, to find something against the Canaanites that they don't like. Is what I think that lie was really made up for. Because why wouldn't you curse Ham for it? No, you're gonna curse the son of Ham, and you only curse one particular son of Ham at that. You didn't curse any other sons of Ham, just Canaan, right? So, but so this is a good thing. You are responsible for your own deeds. Because that'd be messed up if I went and I killed somebody, but then they go and kill my son, and I get to live. That he got to pay for my crime. That is also why the whole Jesus story don't make no sense to me. Jesus came and died for your sins, but right, you supposed to be responsible for your own sins. I don't even like the comedic version of it where Horace comes in and takes upon the sins of a person whose heart is heavier than a feather. Horace ain't had shit to do with the stuff that you did. So Jesus ain't got nothing to do with the stuff you did. That's just an easy way out. You know what? This religion, Judaism, is too damn hard for the Romans and the Greeks because it's obviously too hard for the even people who wrote this shit. So guess what we're gonna do? We're gonna make it where somebody died for your sins, so you can keep on going around here doing your bullshit and still think that you're going to some heaven, even in all your transgressions. Because if you think about it, the Jewish Messiah was supposed to be somebody who would overthrow the ruling government and issue in a anointed government that is ruled by this deity on earth that would be following all the Old Testament stuff. It wasn't supposed to be this ethereal kingdom that's in your spirit and the Holy Spirit and afterwards and the old Sealy thing, life here on earth don't matter too much. Just hereafter, however that damn speech go. I know you know it. But oh, we have some nature, a little bunny rabbit. We had a coyote out here the other day, about a week ago. What? That's some bull, huh? I can't hear you. Oh, hold on. Let me see some comments real quick before I finish off this chapter. So God's a witch throwing curses, pretty much. Pretty curse on someone is black magic. There's no such thing as magic. Why I gotta be black magic? Why can't it be white magic? Shanice, uh, I don't. Oh, you talking to somebody else? Didn't God also curse the serpent? Didn't God also curse the serpent? God is the source, the sorcerer cursing people. Huh? Yep, he did. He supposedly cursed the serpent. That's why he goes on his belly and eat the dust and all that kind of stuff. So he practicing some magic. Yep. Not to mention George asked my Lord, "Why have you forsaken me?" And that depends on which version you're reading. That he says that. Other versions he says it's finished and all that stuff. I don't know who William Donahue is, but the fact of the matter is, those people at that time frame did not take those stories as allegories. They took those stories as true historical events that happened. You ask, why did the Bible talk bad? Why does the Bible talk bad about women? because women, the value of a woman according to the Bible is just the property of a man and her ability to have sons. And her virginity is important for a man to be able to know his legacy so that his money goes to the right person. So this Bible doesn't really care about y'all. It cares about women about the same amount as it cares about a red heifer. So y'all are equatable to animals according to this book. All right, so let me finish this chapter, and then we can just have conversations. So where was I? This I need a cloud to come and cover the sun for a minute, but there ain't none nearby, so it ain't gonna happen. Um, verse 17: You shall not prevent. No, is that verse 17? Yeah. You shall not pervert the justice due to the sojourner or the fatherless, or take a widow's garment in pledge. But you shall remember that you were slaves in Egypt, and the Lord God redeemed you from there. Therefore, I command you to do this. So, you know how the justice system was jacked up and is still jacked up towards uh, people of color in America? They're saying that you shouldn't do that to sojourners. You should do that to the fatherless, taking advantage of kids who are in single mother household, or orphans, and don't take a widow's garment. So earlier we was talking about don't take the garment of a poor person, but it's also saying don't take a widow's garment, because women, weren't able to own anything for the most part. They weren't able to own land, own property. It was passed down to their sons, and hopefully they have a good son that will take care of them. But if you don't have a good son that's not taking care of you, hopefully your brother or your uncle, whoever got the property, would take care of you. But oftentimes they wouldn't take care of you. So don't take the garments of a widow, right? And then that whole "you were slaves in Egypt," we know that's bullshit. You were never slaves. Using that as a catalyst to explain why you should do that. You should just not do it. How about that? And the last few verses of this chapter: when you reap your harvest in your fields and have forgotten a shelf in the field, a sheaf in the field, you shall not go back to get it. It shall be for the sojourner, the fatherless, and the widow, that the Lord your God may bless you in all the works of your hand. When you beat your olive tree, you shall not go over it and over the burrows again. It shall be there for the sojourner, the fatherless, and the widows. When you gather the grapes in the vineyard, you shall not glean it afterwards. It shall be for the sojourner, the fatherless, and the widow. You shall remember that you were slaves in the land of Egypt. Therefore, I command you to do this. So this is similar to the one where they was eating the grapes in the grocery store, where you leave a little. If you miss some of your harvest or you don't get it all, leave a gleaning, leave a little bit for the poor people, for the traveling strangers, and for the widows. So that's like the basis of your whole Naomi and um, Ruth story in the book of Ruth. And then, old boy Boaz was like, she kind of fine. Make sure y'all leave her a little bit, a little extra. And then they connived their way into getting her pum pum. So, so that one is a good one. Yet evangelicals wouldn't really like that one because that's more socialist mentality. But that was actually something decent. Now let me see some of the stuff that y'all said. But that was the reading of 23 and 24. We see that a lot of these laws, a lot of these rules are kind of jacked up. It doesn't, you know, people don't follow it. These people who claim this book don't follow it. They use Jesus as a scapegoat for most of the stuff that they don't want to follow. Um, so, uh, but we know this guy don't like being around shit. So don't go take a dump around this guy. So your bathroom, your house ain't holy. Yeah. Oh wow. Think about all the people who got prayers and holy this and holy that all over their house, but you got a toilet in your house. Now, and there's some shitting in heaven because there are 12 trees that's supposed to produce fruit in season that you're going to eat from. So you're going to be shitting in heaven. You're going to have to go outside. Angelina said you got to hold it for an eternity. All right, let me see some of these comments here. Uh, but women, Shanice said, but women are mothers of all mothers, so I'm confused. That's not a special talent to them. One, they thought that the man was that, well, they thought women decided whether it was going to be a boy or a girl, but to them, you're no different than a cow that they want to put with a nose to come produce good flocks, stronger animals. You know, you're like a test tube to them. But they don't care about women. This book doesn't really care. That's why that dude went and made that speech at that college, telling them women that they shouldn't be trying to go out here and get careers. Go home and be a wife and have some babies. I can't let y'all get too far ahead of me. So let me scroll down. Let me scroll down. Y'all can't take half of the shit that Trauma say as him being serious. His face was not straight when he was writing it. Trauma be right. Trauma crazy. He got problems. That's why his name Trauma. Who got 700 wives? That would be Solomon. Solomon had 700. Well, he had 300 wives and 700 concubines. You're curious to hear my interpretation of it. Of what? Because I might have missed what you. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Why are both Lucifer and Jesus referred to as the morning star in the Bible? Oh, okay. That is a very good question. First thing that we have to understand is what is the morning star and what is the idea behind it. Well, the morning star is the planet Venus. So tonight, if you look low in the sky, the brightest star in the sky in the early part of the night is going to be the planet Venus, and it's going to rise in the east, right? So when you see that rise in the east, then it'll move across the sky, but it'll be very low. It won't move that high up in the sky, but it'll move across the sky. Um, but it's still visible, and the planet Venus is still visible in the morning. But in the morning, the sun rises in the very same spot where Venus came up that previous night. So Venus is right where the sun is going to rise. So it's the light bringer, the one that and the light brings illumination. The light brings life, the sun. So, everybody venerated the sun. So that's where you get the idea of Lucifer being the light bringer or the morning star, because he's going to bring the sunlight with it. And the sun brings life. So Jesus would be like that, and God would be the sun, the bringer of life, kind of like what Akhenaten was saying as far as the Octen being represented by the sun. So that is why both are referred to. Now, and Lucifer is not a being; it's not a person; it's an idea. Now, in Isaiah, I believe, where it was, they weren't talking about a being. He was telling this king, I think it was, I think a Babylonian king. I'm not exactly sure, but he was telling this king that if he needs to humble himself, otherwise, just like the planet Venus looks like it falls out of the sky when the sun rises, there's an optical illusion that creates that look. When the true illumination comes, he will fall from his glory, fall from his grace. He was thinking too highly of himself. But this was talking about a king. It wasn't talking about a being. So Lucifer is not Satan, is not the serpent, is not Beelzebub, is not the beast, it's not any of those things. It's the planet Venus that rises in the east and is the brightest thing when it rises. until Sirius rises. Once Sirius A rises, then that's the brightest star out there. But good question. But they're both thought to bring illumination, to bring light, to bring life. Other planets? That's a good question. So in that one, it talks about Venus. That's not a planet. Off the top of my head, I can't think of any other planets it talks about directly. You can people make some leaps about it being about certain people being like other planets. Um, it talks about an asteroid named Wormwood, but I can't think of any other planets that it talks about. If we look at, yep, trauma. The sun dies on the cross during the winter solstice. Right. So 3 days before December 25th, like December 22nd or 21st, the sun sets near the Southern Cross, and it'll set in that same spot for 3 days, and then it starts rising 1 degree north on December 25th, which is supposed to move south throughout the summer. So after is should be sometime next month. I mean, start rising well, set 1 degree south and rise 1 degree south. Right now, it's still setting and rising 1 degree north until the summer, and so it dies on the Southern Cross. I was just curious as your interpretation of it. I'm a Luciferian, and in my tradition, Lucifer is revealed as a being, but it also an archetype one can become as. I mean, you can make it into that, but that is a 4/5 prior to the people who wrote the story did not have Lucifer as a being. So I hate to say it this way, my guy, but basically you are giving what the church decided Lucifer is, and not what those writers, when they use that term, meant it to be. The three wise men are the yeah, and originally the Bible doesn't say anything about how many wise men came. That's why but the three wise men is the belt of Orion or the belt of Asar, which is the Egyptian name. Um, but yeah, there was, and they try to say three wise men because there was three gifts that were mentioned, but there's no idea. It doesn't stipulate as to how many magi, which means magicians, wizards, or wise men came. And see, every story is different. What's up, Dwayne? Let's see what else. Cain and Abel have something. Shit, I didn't know I'm picking all of yours. I'm just seeing the lettering. I ain't even seeing who writing this stuff. Cain and Abel have something to do with the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. I've never read anything that had Cain and Abel has something to do with that. I know that there is the idea in the Sumerian and in the Babylonians. Well, in the Babylonians, Marduk slayed uh, Tiamat and created all Earth and the asteroid belt and all that. And many civilizations understood that was there, and they called it the bracelet, the universal bracelet. and because they thought it was another planet there, and that's just a destruction left over from a planet that was destroyed, that was between Earth and Mars. Any statements? Any other questions? You know, y'all leave me. I know we do have to run a couple of errands at some time, but I'm trying to give y'all at least your normal kind of time. It's about 2 hours, 2.5 hours. Otherwise, I will ditch out on y'all. Hmm? Which one? Come on, moderator.
I really am the moderator.
Which one should I have seen, moderator?
I'm shocked you missed the Boom Boom thing.
Oh, Eric. What Eric say? A woman that thinks that her poom poom is power is a woman that thinks ill intended. I know you meant ill intended right there. No shade. A woman should always a presence, have a present, have a present her power in mentally, not physically, in my opinion. No, you're right. In that video that I did, where I said there are things that a woman can say that just turn the interest off immediately. Like if I would have just start listing a bunch of stuff, when I see those videos when a woman says that, when they say, "What do you bring to the table?" and they be talking about, "I am the table," bullshit. You got to come more with just some poom poom. It takes and it's different for each person. Everybody has things that they like and things they dislike, things that they'll put up with, things they won't put up with, things they must have, things they must not have. And you should just hold strong to that and find somebody who matches that shit up. But you definitely, just as a man has to bring more to the table than just the table, the woman got to bring more to the table than just the table too. Because shit, both men and women can go out and find a table. May not be nothing on the damn table, but you can find a table. You need some shit on the table. You need some silverware. You know, I need some silverware. I need some knives, some forks. I need some food on the table. I need some candles, some flowers. We need all kinds on the table. You, know, you see how the table is set. Look, how sturdy is this table? Because if your pom pom is good, I need to see if the table can hold up under the stress of me throwing you on the table, and we getting it in. Is the table how strong is this table? Can this table hold my weight when I'm feeling down? I'm feeling low. Is it a table that I can take a nap on and lay my head down on the table? I need to know these things. You know, all these things matter. Does your table have four extremities on it? Because I don't know. A three-legged table I may not be able to deal with, and a two-legged table certainly can't stand. So, what are the legs of the table? That's right, JRO. It better not be no damn IKEA table, because anybody can take it apart and put it together. I need it made out of some stern wood. Don't give me no rent-a-center table. That means you're here today, going tomorrow, and it costs way more money than the value. Your value is too. You think your value is up here. See, you can go with this one, Mia. Rent-a-center tables gives you pay way more for a rent-a-center table than the true value of that table. You see, if you go to a rent-a-center table, it's because you got bad credit, and they want you to put a bunch of money down because you don't have good discernment about what a table and the value should be, because you don't know how to handle yourself. So you overpay for the table, and then you wind up struggling with a whole bunch of other stuff in your life because you're not overpaid for this table. And then when you finally got it, then the table starts to break down because it wasn't made of good stuff. Huh?
She said yes, cook, clean, and work swing shift. That's enough.
Oh hell no, Shanice. Cook, clean, and work clean swing shift. I'm gonna be a little bit of an old-fashioned guy on this one. Here's my thing about that one. If my woman and work a swing shift, then I should be cooking and cleaning with her. Or you cooking because she can cook way better than me. You cooking, I'm gonna do the cleaning, except for the kitchen. You got the kitchen because you messed it up. But I cook the room. I got the bathroom because God ain't in there anyway. You know, I dining room. You know, we can share some duties. That's my only problem with guys who say, "I want her to cook, clean, and work." You know, and then I want your poom poom as often. I want to be freaky, and I want you to be a team. I want you to go hang out with me, and all this kind of stuff. There has to be some level of fairness. Now, me personally, my goal is that at no point do I want my woman to have to work outside the house. You know, I want her, and part of it is selfishness. I don't want to share time with her and her job. You know what I'm saying? Like, she go to work, I come home from work, she going to work. That's some bullshit. I want you to be free to go and hang out and play and do whatever we want to do, watch a movie, stay up late 2 in the morning, you know, because I want that quality time is very important. So I'm gonna have to disagree with you on the swing shift unless you're in a situation where you ain't got a choice. But nah, we gonna have to work that out. Shit, I'll go get 2 jobs. You like my table analogy, Walt? I broke it down, preach it. Oh hell no. Amber, this is me. This is just me. If you cooking out of a box, you ain't cooking. You ain't cooking. You ain't cooking. I hear you. And your king and your kids and your king would love it. I don't know. I ain't having my wife go work on a swing shift though. My only problem is a swing shift. You ain't working no damn swing shift. Shanice, if you was my woman, your ass ain't working a swing shift. Tell you right now. You ain't going for that. God damn it. I'm gonna get out there and do what I gotta do to make enough money that you ain't gotta work no swing shift. We want to go on vacation. I don't want to hear shit about I ain't got no vacation days and all that. And somebody else is making you be somewhere. That's another big part about it. Ain't nobody telling you where you gotta be. You're gonna be wherever you at when you want to be there. Shit, I'll be the one to take on the responsibility of somebody telling me I gotta be somewhere for a certain number of hours. Mm-mm. I don't know. I'm old fashioned, but it's a good old fashioned. It's like, hey,
She out there trying to get the parents.
what, no animals, no diary,
Yeah.
no dairy. Or you meant diary? Is it how you, is there a difference in spelling of dairy and diary? I'm sure there is.
He
I,
said dairy.
you mean diary since you said no animals.
No dairy. Like eating. That's the difference.
Oh, the eating, no animals, no dairy. Gotcha. My bad. I'm with you. I'm with you. It's for dessert before the poom poom. That's pom pom, right? No, is that how you say? I know I spell it the Jamaican way. P-O-M. No, and Hello Fresh ain't cooking either. That's some bullshit. All them preservatives and stuff. Mm-mm. And I done got spoiled because Angelina, whoo, she be throwing down. That's why I got to lose these 50 pounds. She not fatting me up. Trauma, are you messing with Shanice? Leave her alone. Y'all can't get, see, I used to get caught up with Trauma. Then I realized he just be messing with me. So I now know that he know he my guy and all, but he's still stupid. Yes, I don't think we should be like, I try to keep my dairy to a minimum because dairy is very bad for you, period. And then what other animal is still eating another animal? Drink, what other animal eats another animal's milk? And then all that stuff, all that inflation creates all that mucus in your body, and that's how you get sick. Is when you have all that mucus in your system. Yes, trauma. We know. We know. That's why I don't take you seriously, but half the time, because It's a couple of people that they go to jail with they them in trauma just crazy. Um, I know your previous statement was dessert before the poom poom is better than vegetables. The poom poom is the dessert, my guy, and it's better than vegetables. Shit, it's better than anything I can. It's the most delicious thing there is. Even better than coffee, and I love some coffee. Give me a breakdown on the Jewish. The ish part throws me off. I don't understand how the ish throws you off. It's like, well, I see what you're saying. I think I see what you're saying. Why can't you just say you're a Jew instead of you're Jewish? I don't know why they say that, honestly. I mean, if I try to like connect it with other issues like British, you know, or there's not many issues out there. Maybe the ones in Germany picked it up because I don't think before that nobody said that they were Jewish. It was just you're Jew. Or maybe when you're talking about the pluralization of the people, that's why it's a ish. You're Jewish people because you wouldn't say no. Then you say those are Jews. So that's plural is Jews. Shit, I don't know.
Mm,
Have I tried HelloFresh? No, and I have no intentions. Even before I would cook for myself first. Trauma Thompson dessert with the poom poom. It depends on what it is. Sometimes it's a little too messy. Right. I'm kind of with Boondocks here. Jewish is a misnomer. Like there's no such thing really. You're individually a Jew. You are a group Jews. Maybe if you're talking about a product, like this is Jewish coffee. To be like, so the definition to be like in nature of being Jews.
so it says, no, I'm not Jew, not Jewish, means like that of a Jew.
Like saying that was very Jewish of you.
Like,
You genocided a bunch of people. Very Jewish of you. Like that.
I'm
Since they
not.
do a lot of genocide in the Bible.
No,
But people will separate that and say, well, those were the Hebrews and the Israelites.
it says that causes an acknowledgement that there is a clear definition of who is Jewish according to halakha or Jewish law.
Oh, okay, well, it's some bullshit. Uh, Boondock said he read that in the Jewish almanac. So it's the almanac dedicated to the Jewish mindset of the cosmology, like Blackish. What are your thoughts on what the Shamar was? I don't know what a Shimar is. Can you look at Shimar? I ain't never heard of that. And if I have, I ain't heard of it in those terms. Shimar, yeah. Trauma, you crazy. That whipped cream does wonders. Yeah, I don't like whipped cream.
I'm getting a person.
You're getting a person on the Shimar. You might have to express that pursuit of the end. What is Shamar? That was what Solomon used to cut the stone
Merciless, wicked, vile,
for the temple. I have no idea. Don't worry about it because I don't know anything about a tool that he used to cut the stone of the temple. If I, if that's in the, you said according to the Bible, that's one of those things that I read and really didn't jump out at me and go deeper into it. Blackish kind of black, but not really. Yeah. So Brian B. So when we was in Bimini, and I asked one of the locals about the Bimini Road, she was dead set on making sure I understood that it was a natural occurrence because, oh shoot, I think I got kicked out of TikTok. I did. Sometimes TikTok comes up and I gotta do the little thing and I forgot to do it. Oh, well, that'd be all right. Uh, Not that I'm just such a person who follows and believes everything Graham Hancock says, because I'm not. He makes a lot of good points, but from all the research that I can possibly that I've been able to do, and I did want to see it for myself, I still think the Bimini Road might be the remains of a previous civilization because simply prior to the Younger Dryas, more people would have lived in the tropics. The natural environment for people, for us humans, is the tropics. It's the only place that we can live and survive in the way that we were born, like every other thing on this planet, right? So the Bimini Road is just remnants of a civilization. Was it Atlantis? No, I'm not going to say it's Atlantis, but I do think that there was a before the sea levels rose 400 feet. Their civilization extended because the island of Bimini, the Grand Bahamas, Nassau, I think all of that probably was one connected landmass of an island, and that's just a part that went underwater. What do I think about the potential of the third temple? The potential third temple being built next to the Dome of the Rock, and the self-fulfilling prophecy that they are trying to bring about with the 7 year tribulation period. Well, you got to remember the Jews don't believe in the 7 years of tribulation as far as the writings of John the Revelator. So they don't believe in that. That wouldn't be their thing. Their thing would be the building of the third temple would be an indication of the true Messiah coming and establishing the Israel as a world power, conquering all the lands that were promised to Abraham, which would mean they would conquer all the way up into Syria and Lebanon, all the way out to the Tigris River, which would take them through Iraq and I think maybe Iran, and all the way down to the Sinai Peninsula. And they would conquer and take that land, and they would rule for 1,000 years. No, it's 1,000 years, or no, 10,000 generations, which is a long ass time. I think that comes out to about 20,000 years or some shit like that, or 2,500 years. But anyway, um, now it's more than 2,500 years. The generation is about 40, so about 40,000 years. Anyway, anywhere from 20 to 40,000 years. Yeah, I don't think. I think they can build it. Are they going to be able to conquer and control all those lands? Hell no. But it will be self fulfilling, except that they're not under anybody's rule right now. The Messiah is for them is supposed to come when they are oppressed, and they're not being oppressed; they're doing the oppression. I most certainly do think that the church is just stealing people's money. The people aren't benefiting from the money that the church is taking. What fish dish? Yeah, I don't really eat seafood, so I didn't eat any fish down there. But I agree with you. I think the Bimmer is man-made. Hey, Stephanie, great to see you again. Yeah, Primer, you're late. Yes, and you are late too, Stephanie. We've already went over Deuteronomy 23 and 24. Now we're just in general conversation, and we've been all over the map. You say somebody came to troll? I didn't even see him. Oh, wait a minute. Coach, do you think it's weird that the Romans didn't build pyramids? At least not that I know of. No, the Romans didn't build pyramids. You gotta understand. By the time the Romans came about, the by the time the Romans really came about, the use of Roman cement was their primary method, and building archways and arches was, a technique that had been developed by then. So they would not have built pyramids. So I'm not surprised that they didn't build pyramids at all, because they weren't stacking. Once you can build a curve, there would be no need to build pyramids. What did you say? Anytime wait, where is it? It is funny. It's funny that people say that anytime bro reads from the Bible, he's always giving his opinion. But what the hell am I supposed to give? That don't make sense to me. Every time a preacher preaches from this Bible, they're giving their opinion on what it is. I'm just basing mine on what history says and what the culture of that day believes and what they actually meant when they wrote it, not what y'all try to convert it to mean today. What was that? During the Nicene Council, 328 bishops showed up. Why were they all Greeks and Romans? Sounds fishy to me. Right? You only had and even the ones who showed up out of Egypt, Arius, they were Hellenistic um, Egyptians, so they were the only ones there because they were the ones that the Roman government knew that they could control. Oh, appreciate that, Boondocks. Right, and I've never taken the promise that most Bible apologists make, and that is no matter what they read, no matter what they find out, they have to still make it fit the Bible narrative and believe the Bible narrative. And it's funny, I'm making up some stuff, but you weren't here to hear any other things that I made up. So how do you know I'm making up some stuff if you weren't here to hear it? Why do most of the disciples have Greek names? That should make you say, huh? Because when those anonymous gospels were finally kind of put together, it was under Roman rule, and the Romans, although they defeated the Greeks, they thought the Greeks were a sign of intelligence and culture. Of course, Stephanie. Quick question: do you know why the Assyrians, Arcadians, and Romans invaded Africa, or did Jehovah God tell them to do so, or was it an invasion all over the world? Well, the Assyrians, the Assyrians and Arcadians never really invaded Africa because they never invaded Egypt. They went to wars against Egypt, but they mainly stayed in their land. The Arcadians, I don't think that they never invaded Egypt either. I don't think not in the, and kept it and that sort of thing. But all invasions are basically over resources. So it wouldn't have been about a god or anything of that nature. They just put their gods on it because when somebody else won, they always gave their god the credit. So the Romans would give Jupiter the credit, or Mars the credit. You know, if you're Greek, they were giving Ares the credit. But the Roman invasions is just all conquest of land. The Roman emperor's job is to expand and maintain the empire. Well, what we read them today are English names, but those English names does have a direct translation into Greek. So they're not transliterations like the Jesus name is a transliteration. But there was a Greek name. Trauma, you know Jesus is not Zeus. It's a transliteration, not a translation. It's their closest proximity to the name of Yeshu. But the Greek didn't have the shu sound in it. So Ius was the closest they can get that would have a similar enough meaning. Uh, the Bible believers crack me up because there's always a point that you twist to your own meaning. I am being more truthful. Like, oh, by the way, so either tomorrow or Monday, I'll do a live and we're going to talk about the Satan's handbook guide or whatever, Satan's guide to the Bible or whatever it was, that video that I've been asked about a whole bunch of times. And it's funny how if you tell people the truth of what this book says, the true meaning that it had in the culture that actually wrote it, based on the time frame that each book was written, give it the true history of it, all of a sudden it becomes your opinion. It is not of my opinion that the book of Daniel was written after the Babylonian captivity, which is why it looked like his prophecies seemed to be true. It's not an opinion of mine. That is historical fact. It is not an opinion that not one contemporary wrote about Jesus, not one historian wrote about Jesus, and that there are no actual eyewitnesses, and that the books were anonymous. That's not an opinion. That's facts. So y'all be misinterpreting opinion and facts. Opinions is what y'all do, and what your pastors have been doing, and what your apologists have been doing. But you're gonna be all right, Primer. You're gonna be all right. You're gonna be all right. You'll be all right because them things were anonymous, and they didn't get a name uh, until the second. I think it's around the second century. Second, first or second? No, not the first century. Second and third century is when the Gospels got a name. No, Jesus is not Latin. It's part Latin. It's Isus is Latin, and then so it went from Yeshu to the transliteration of Ius, the translation of Ius to Isus, and then when the J came into the 16th century, 16th or 17th century, then it became Jesus. So it is somewhat Latin. Oh no, Ius has nothing to do with ISIS at all. Ius is kind of like a saving God, is the idea of it. That's why transliterations try to give the closest meaning that they have in their language to the language that they're coming from. But no, it didn't have anything to do with ISIS. Every day we venerate different gods because every day is named after deity, a different god. Yeah. Friday is Frigga. Thursday is Thor. Wednesday is Odin from Woden. Tuesday I think Tuesday is Mars. Monday is Moon Day. Sunday is the sun. And Saturday is Saturn. So you got different gods and different planets. that have God representations. Now, I haven't published this video, but it'll be published after I finish this one, after we finish this live. Josephus never met Jesus. Josephus wrote about different people who were claiming to be messiahs in the first century. And if you look at all those stories, you put them together and you start to get the beginning of your Jesus legend. Pliny was not a contemporary of Jesus. He wrote decades after the Jesus story and didn't say Jesus existed. He wrote that people believed in this Jesus. Same thing with Tacitus. He wrote what people believed, did not write anything. Because if you take, did not write that they actually existed. If you take that, then you have to say that since um, Tacitus wrote about Serapis and Serapis performing miracles through uh, Vespasian, then Serapis is real. You see what I'm saying? They don't want to do that. They don't want to do that. Uh, they don't want to look at those same people that they claim uh, vindicates Jesus and how those same people would vindicate other gods as well in the same format. They don't want to take their own stuff. They want to dish it out, but they can't take it. Right. See, Josephus is not a contemporary of Jesus because Josephus wasn't born until 34 CE. So he wasn't a contemporary of Jesus because he was a baby. He wasn't even born when Jesus supposedly died. But nobody else who was alive and a grown ass man wrote about Jesus. No eyewitness wrote about Jesus. You got accounts of what people say, other people say, what other people say they saw. Now, the Quran is supposed to have been the revelations came down to Muhammad, and Muhammad told it to the scribes, and the scribes wrote it down. But Allah didn't write jack. See, this is some crazy shit to me right here. They like to try to say this, but I'm gonna let y'all know this is not factual. He's saying the history of Alexander the Great, the Greek is what I call him, comes 300 years after he died. But yet we got writings from Ptolemy that talks about his time with Alexander. Ptolemy, yeah, got writings from Ptolemy, who was one of his generals, who lived with him, who fought with him. Yeah, if you're on TikTok or Facebook or whatever, keep sending Dan my videos. Maybe he'll respond to my messages. But I got to figure out a different way to get to him. I think yeah, you know what? I've been trying to get to him through TikTok, but TikTok is more difficult. I'm gonna try it through the other platforms. Yeah, the Bible is all word. It's 99% word of mouth. Only a few things were authored by the actual person. Half of what Paul wrote was that's attributed to Paul was authored by most likely Paul. And Paul never knew Jesus. He didn't walk with Jesus. He supposedly just seen the image of Jesus. African gods, Ogun, Oshun, it is so many countries, gods and goddesses that this was probably before the Anunnaki being, possibly. I've read about the African gods and gods. Yeah, the like West African god. These are mostly West African gods and goddesses. They were being written about or were told about stories being handed down Same time that the Anunnaki stories are being handed down. And the Anunnaki story, now those stories were written like most of those stories, like the Epic of Gilgamesh and all that stuff, are written thousands of years later, if not hundreds or thousands of years later. The sun is in my way for the reading part. Trying to make sure I don't get left too far behind. So Alexander was getting that Egyptian. Alexander got some poom poom all over the place. And see, and here's some other stuff. Are there any minted coins of Jesus? No, there are minted coins of Alexander during the time frame that he supposedly lived. There are other countries that talk about the Greeks coming in under Alexander, all the way through Persia, all the way to parts of India, all the way up into Egypt. Some of these superheroes are African copies. Understand? I hear what you're saying, but the Norwegians, the people up there who created Thor and Odin, didn't know about Shango, right? They created, even though Shango and Thor similarities, Anansi and Loki similarities, but there are certain similarities that people who share similar environments are going to come up with. Like everybody who lived near the coast are going to have a sea god. Everybody sees lightning, so we're going to have a lightning god, a thunder god, uh, trickster. Everybody's going to have a trickster god. There are certain things that everybody is just going to have, whether they have contact with each other or not. And that's just simply because when they're trying to figure out nature, they ascribe some deity towards it. So I can't say they're all copies. It's just because the world was conquered, most of the world is conquered by Western thought processes. We go by that. If the West Africans had went out conquering the world, then Marvel would be making shit about Shango instead of Thor. Oh wait. This is another popular one that they try to use to validate the Bible. The Bible has more manuscripts than any other book on the planet, and they don't all agree. Some of them are just little parchments here and there. Like the story about the woman who committed adultery doesn't come along until around the third century. It wasn't in any other manuscripts prior to that. So why isn't it not in those other manuscripts? Is because there was a fabrication that was added to it. So it is not. They try to present that like everything has been exactly the same and every word is exactly the same, and it's not. There are many differences. The Dead Sea Scrolls have differences from what your Bible has. So there are tons of different. Uh, the Ethiopian Bible has differences. Enoch was written so very late and is pretty much fan fiction because people were like, they got this one thing about this one line about Enoch. We need what happened to this dude. So fan fiction is created. So just because a bunch of people copy down the same shit over and over again, or copy down similar stories over and over again, doesn't validate it. And then when you can look at the whole book of Genesis and see that these are more than likely being brought over from the Sumerians, the Akkadians, the Canaanites, and the Kemetic stories, because these people who become Hebrews were originally Canaanites, and they were conquered by the Egyptians in the Levant, conquered by the Assyrians, the Akkadians. Then they're going to have similar stories, but that doesn't validate and make any of them true. So if if Marvel decides that it's going to make 2 million copies of a Spider-Man edition, does that make Spider-Man real? And yeah, he talks. He was in New York. The different presidents that we've had have been characters in the Spider-Man book. Does that make it real? 1,000 years from now, are people going to say, well, Spider-Man must be real because we have over 2 million copies of Spider-Man? That's what that sounds like to me. It's like, come on, man. The next book is Homer's Iliad and Odyssey, I think, is the next book that we have the most ancient copies of. So does that mean that Achilles is real? Does that mean that sirens are real? Are Cyclops real? Come on with it. Okay, y'all going too fast. Do you think that Elion and Asherah were the real true gods? And do you believe that they had children? Oh, I don't believe that any of those guys existed. To be honest, I don't think any of them existed. These are just guys that these people created because they couldn't understand nature. Their scientific knowledge wasn't to the level of ours. If somebody was writing a religion today, they would not create a storm god, you know, or anything like that. And they wouldn't. And these guys having wives and children, but Elion and Asherah were husband and wife according to the Canaanite religion, and they had children, and Yahweh was one of those kids. But as far as them being real guys, no, 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 no. Now, could they have been some people from a previous civilization that was able to survive this younger Dryas ice age, and people thought that they were gods? Sure. None of these people were actually people; they're personifications. Yeah, they are personifications. Now, understand though, Boondocks. I saw your other comment very briefly before it went too far where I can see it. All these things aren't metaphors. Those people, when they wrote it, thought that these things happened for real. They thought Noah's flood was a real event and Noah actually lived. Now, because we can scientifically identify that that's a bullshit story, we try to now say, oh, it's metaphors. So we try to convert it into our current understanding and knowledge. See, and this the bullshit. No, you're poisoning a well. We have the Septuagint, which is a Greek translation of the Old Testament, and then you have your New Testament. We have the Masoretic text of thousands of manuscripts that have been the same information. No, they're not. If you compare the Masoretic text to the Ugaritic text, they're different. They have differences in them. So, putting aside human variances of text writing, so you admit that they're not all the exact same. If you're putting aside human variances, but all of them are still just written by humans. Hell, I'm a human. I can write a Bible today. I can, if you destroy all Bibles and only the Trump Bible survives, then 1,000 years from now, people are gonna say, "Oh, we got the Constitution is part of God's work." It is not. You grabbing it. God said that it's okay to grab him by the pussy. Ah, oh, they be killing me with they're trying to validate this book based on some people writing some stuff. Oh man, you need to prove a deity. You need the deity to prove itself. You're just asking people to believe in some ethereal being with no proof. Grand Rising Debbie, hey lady. No, we're not doing that. We too smart. We too smart over here. We're too conscious over here to just believe that. Like, there's a bird over there who just opened his wings. I know that bird exists because he's right there. If you want your God to exist, then we got a nice sunny day right now. Well, it's partly cloudy. It's partly cloudy. Is there a cloud over us? Make it rain right now in this yard. If your God real, make it rain right now in this yard. Where you at? Yahweh, make it rain. Make it rain. Shit, there's no clouds over there by the sun. I'll be make cover that sun right now. Get it out my face so I can actually read what people are writing. Come on, man. You can't prove that, and you can't prove your Jesus. Not the Bible Jesus, biblical Jesus. No, can't prove it. Can't prove it. And just Now, jokers be lying in history today, but you believe that they were truthful back then. The Israelite people claim to have had this huge kingdom of David. Now, there might have been a house, there was an inscription that says that there was the house of David. So it's possible that the house of David existed, which could mean that Solomon existed as well. Possible, because there was a house of David. But the time frame that David would have existed, it would have been when the Levant was um, going through the what's the thing I'm talking about? Was going through the Bronze Age collapse, which was a time frame when Egypt had lost control of the Levant, and all these Semitic tribes were vying for power. But Israelites didn't conquer all this land. Didn't kill the Philistines and the Edomites and all these things that they claimed that they conquered. None of those civilizations were conquered during that time frame by Israelites. So David might have had a small little kingdom in the hillsides of what is modern day Israel. That's about it. And then his story got legendized. But you do not have this great kingdom of the Israelites, right? You had, now we do know Hezekiah. You have Hezekiah. He was ruling the northern Israelite kingdom from the late 700s. And around that time frame, the Assyrians kicked all their asses except for taking Jerusalem. And Hezekiah then bribed Sennacherib for him to leave Jerusalem alone. And Sennacherib pulled back his forces and did that. We got proof of Sennacherib. There's proof of Hezekiah, of them existing as a king over their little land. But then the Babylonians came in around the late 600, like around 622, beat the shit out of the Assyrians, and then took the northern kingdom of Israel, made the southern kingdom of Judah a vassal state, and whooped their ass and kept them. Israel has been a vassal state for the overwhelming majority of its history. It has never been this independent kingdom except for very small spurts of time. So all that in the, oh, they had this land of Gad and they had this land of Dan and no, motherfuckers didn't have all that. We got archaeological proof of the other people controlling the Levant. We have none of these 12 tribes controlling all this land and stuff. Matter of fact, your whole Jericho story doesn't fit the archaeological history. From about 1500 BCE is when the walls of Jericho came down. But in the 1500s, doesn't match with the 1300s time frame of Moses. Then the whole Jericho wall thing coming down, then you don't have the rebuilding of the walls of Jericho until 1000. So there would be no walking around 7 times and blowing some trumpets because there was no walls to fall at that time frame. And plus, the Canaanite people were mostly living coastal, but they had moved inland because most ancient climatologists think that it was a drought that caused the Bronze Age collapse. So they moved inland and all that during that time frame, and that caused conflict with this small wandering nomadic tribe called Hebrews. Jerusalem didn't become the capital the of the northern kingdom of Israel until the late 700s, after the Assyrians had conquered most of the other cities. And the only reason it became the capital because it was the only temple that was still standing, because each one of those cities had their own smaller temples during that time frame, during the time frame before that. And then once Hezekiah realized that, after the Assyrians kind of pushed back, realized that with him having the only temple still there, he could collect all the temple taxes and monies and offerings, and all the citizens are coming there to do their rituals, and he would make more money. Basically, it can't. It's follow the money, right? But Christians and Jews don't want to understand. The Hebrews they don't want to understand that aspect of the culture at that time frame. And then when his son took over, I think it's his son took over, he was like, "Yeah, let's keep doing this shit." But then they went into exile, and all the shit was destroyed. And then when Ezra comes back after the Babylonian exile, he just establishes Jerusalem back to that same stance in around 500, the late 500s, in order for him. He reestablished it in Jerusalem and then made it where Jerusalem was that capital. See, there's a whole political economic thing that goes along with this that most people who believe in this book never really study. What are y'all talking about? A guy called me a dog, so I pissed on his foot. What the hell? Oh, Eric, should we call you R. Kelly? You R. Kelly and people, Eric? See, another one of my favorite Christian arguments is when they say there are stories of a great flood from every continent. If everybody died, there is no one to tell the story, and that's a true thing, right? So when they say, "Oh, all these other places have a story of a great flood," so that makes the Noah flood right. Well, why wouldn't that make their flood story the right flood story? Why does this flood story have to be the right flood story? And then all their flood stories, they are putting it at different time frames because all of them are writing flood stories to correlate with the history that they've established for themselves. Even the Gilgamesh flood story, which was written before the um, Hebrew flood story, was written about 2 to 3 thousand years after the supposedly Gilgamesh flood happened. It wasn't written during the time frame of Gilgamesh. But all of them are just relating to the Younger Dryas flood. Like scientifically, we can show that there was about 12,000 years ago. There was a one event of sea levels rising 400 feet. It did not cover all the land of the world, but for each individual group of people that experienced it, they would have thought that it covered the entire world. But it was just a flood in their area. They didn't realize the full extent. They didn't know why it was happening. So of course, these people are going to say it must have been their God doing something. Yeah, they never really talk about Asherah because I think Jehoiakim and Ezra really kind of like were the ones who really pushed to get Asherah out of the picture because they didn't want a god that had a wife and had sex and begat children. That's when Judaism truly moved into monotheism, was during the latter part of the Babylonian captivity into after they were released by the Persians. And I'm sure a lot of that was because they were learning from the Persians about Zoroastrianism and with Ahura Mazda being the god. These little gnat bugs trying to come out. My sister trying to call me. Dude, there is zero archaeological evidence of the borders of Israel being from Syria to Egypt. Zero, zero time frame that they had controlled that much land. The closest they ever came to that was in the 1940s when they had the Sinai Peninsula and the Levant that they got right now, but that's the closest they ever came to it. They did not have that during any other time frame. Oh, what was that? And then when somebody believes this flood story, is like, oh, what we're talking. Flood story was supposedly around 4,400 BCE, I think, or was it 2,500 BCE? Yeah, no, I think it was around 2,500 BCE or somewhere around there was a flood story, and they repopulated the earth so that within a few thousand years there were millions of people around the earth. Noah's Ark was 35,000 to 3,700 square feet. They had 10,000 species of bird. The Bible says seven of each line of line of birds, assuming each bird occupied 1 square foot. 7 times 1,000, 10,000 equals 70,000 square feet. The birds can't. The birds alone can't fit. There's no way. And you know what they like to say is that, well, it wasn't every species of bird. They just had bird, like two birds, and those two birds created all the other birds. And sorry, but even adaptations and mutations do not happen that quickly to solidify itself as a species. Now you can have a mutation that's immediate, but to solidify itself as a species takes a lot longer than that. And then I got a question about the birds. I know they can fly and all, but how did the seagull get to the Americas? Because there ain't no way in hell a seagull gonna fly across the Atlantic Ocean. There ain't no way in hell they flying all the way across the Pacific Ocean. How did the seagull get back to America? How did the two-toed sloth get back to Australia? How did kangaroo get back to Australia? And please don't nobody say anything about Pangea, because Pangea was so much further back in history. I just want to know, how did the kangaroo get back to Australia and only Australia? And how did that happen? So incest with Adam and Eve, and then incest after the flood. Yeah, pretty much. Let's keep that. You gotta have that incest, man. This Bible is filled with incest. If it ain't with your brother and sister, then it's with your cousins. The Bible is filled with cousin fuckers. All right, how did he keep? I had this one apologist. I said, well, all the animals became vegetarian when they was on there, but you still ain't got enough room to have all the vegetation that you need. Shit, you couldn't. Two elephants. You ain't putting enough vegetation on that boat for two elephants, and elephants would be an unclean animal, so you would have 7 elephants. There's no way 7 elephants had enough food to live for a year on that boat. I don't care if they did start out as babies. Even if you say they started out as babies, that ain't gonna happen. And then, and then, once the lions come and tigers and bears come off the boat, they eating meat. But there's only 7 of every unclean animal, and Noah killed a whole bunch of them for a sacrifice. So what were they eating when they get off the boat? There must be a bunch of species that are extinct simply because of the flood, of what they ate after the flood. And this is a big one for me. Not to mention all the fresh water that would have emptied the life in the ocean. The salinity of the ocean would have been so jacked up that freshwater and saltwater animals and plant life would have been dead. So that's a bunch of Noah's flood is like such an unbelievable story. Now I'm gonna have to check that one, Eric. I've never heard that before. Domesticated cats are not descendants of big cats; they're actually descendants of reptiles. I had to check that one. I've never. That's the first time I've ever heard that. I think Angelina asked. We was having this discussion, and she made this point. Like he went and caught two mosquitoes, and the only way female mosquitoes are the one that bite. Male mosquitoes don't bite. So he must be like, oh, that one bit me. Female mosquito. Let me catch that one. Oh, that one didn't bite me. That's a male mosquito. But how did he know two gnats? Like I remember being in Marine Corps boot camp, and like if you slap a sand flea, then they be like, "Oh, you better find that sand flea. And it was a female, and you better find me that female sand flea." And they had you digging all in the ground looking for a damn sand flea that you can't see. Right. I just did a video that I published like while I was on the ship um, last week or this week. No, this week. What's today? Today's Saturday. About the whole Jonah and the fish story. That's a big fish story. Somehow this dude was able to live in the belly, not in the mouth, but in the belly of a fish, being digested for 3 days. No fresh water, no food, no fire, and he underwater. Come on now. See now he didn't capture any sea life. He only captured animal, ground life, and air life. Right? Is what he's for was brought to him. But all the sharks would have died. All the sharks dead. If you had a massive flood to that level, you got to think. It said that this flood covered the highest mountain by 18 feet. So Everest, which is actually a young mountain range, but would have been around during that time frame, covering that 18 feet, nothing can survive at that elevation. Now, the Gilgamesh story makes more sense because the Gilgamesh story says that he had the seed of every animal, which kind of makes you think some cloning kind of bullshit was going on with that one. But it's still, even the Gilgamesh story is still some bullshit. It only lasts for 6 days, though. Well, it only rained for 6 days and flooded for 6 days. Exactly, Casey. This guy wasn't aware of sulfuric acid that would have burned Joseph's skin. Also, I mean, Jonah's skin. And also, Jonah would have been drowning in acid. Yeah, I got in trouble for that question too when I was younger. Like, how did the stomach acid not kill Jonah? You know, these ones. uh, but yeah, that him living in there, and then he gonna get all pissy. And here's the thing: he supposedly then left and went to Nineveh, and the people of Nineveh began to put themselves in sackcloth and set in ashes to repent from this God. There is nothing in the history of Nineveh, in the archaeology of Nineveh, that demonstrates that the citizenry, the king of Nineveh, the Assyrian king of Nineveh, ever worshipped Yahweh. Nineveh never worshipped Yahweh. They worshipped Elnana. Um, they worshiped Dagon, which is a fish god. The symbol, the cuneiform symbol of Elnana is a fish, house of fish. Uh, so they would have never worshiped Yahweh or never submitted to Yahweh ever in their archaeological history. But Jonah supposedly went there and they converted. Come on, make it make sense, because that math just ain't math. Oh, hey Brian B. So when we was out on the ship, Angelina kept making jokes, telling some. See, that's why that ship over there is just going along the border because it know that if it goes too far to the left, it's gonna hit the dome. And we did. Oh, And while we were out there on the 24th, we did see, because we were close to Cape Canaveral, we did see the launch of Falcon 9s, launching of 23 more of those Starlink satellites. And you know what? It didn't hit. It didn't hit a dome. I was waiting for the rocket to crash into the dome, but it didn't crash into the dome. So I was looking for it, but it didn't. It didn't. It just kept on going and going and going. I recorded it too. Never saw it happen. I was waiting. So they saw Jonah's burnt skin and converted. And then Jonah got mad, telling him, I knew you were forgiving and loving God, and you would forgive them. So I'm gonna sit over here and be upset. Like Jonah was an ass, really. He's really just an ass. You my God, and I just want you to be my God alone. I don't want you to be nobody else's God. I'm gonna go to Joppa because of you. Sorry about that. It's a little warm. Need some water. Although I've been pretty much ignoring Prima for most of the rest of this conversation, this is one thing that. See, here's the thing: religious people always feel like, and this is a struggle that many people, when they leave religion, that they have to deal with. And this is why I'm even bringing this point up: is that there is this thing where they feel like you have to believe in something, like you have to believe in some God, and whatever God you name, they're gonna be like false God, false God, false God. So, like Stephanie was talking about the African gods, right? I don't have to leave Christianity and then become a practitioner of Ifa, right? I don't have to believe in some other God. But they always trying to make the statement like, oh, well, you're just going to go and believe in some other God. No, I can just look inward. I can look at nature and just understand how nature works. I'd rather just follow with the scientific evidence that we have today, knowing always that we're going to increase our knowledge in science and how the universe works every day. If there is some type of deity that made all of this, that deity cannot be encompassed in any book, in any religion, because that would shrink that deity, that it must now fit into that little pocket of what you can create in your mind as what a deity is or is not. But I know what I can do. I can create a deity that's better than the biblical deity. That's for damn sure. Why? Because we have had thousands of years of building of morality and science. Like if I was writing about a deity and he was going to lay down some commandments, no slavery would be one of them. Yeah, like no, just no slavery. Period. You know. So, Primer, you've asked me this question before. I've explained that question before. I'm not going to sit up here and repeat myself to you over and over again about what I believe, what I think, as far as that is concerned. And I pretty much just said it. You know, if there is some deity, it is not in any of your books or in any of these belief systems. It wouldn't fit the paradigm. And to describe it, the moment I try to describe it is the moment it ceased being that God, because it would be unknowable. It would be undefinable. Like if there is a creator being that is a conscious being, it would not be definable. You wouldn't be able to define it. You know, it'd be too big for your consciousness to define because you don't know, and I don't know all the movements and mechanisms of the universe and how everything is connected in the universe. So without knowing all of that, how can you ever define it? And you never will be able to define it because there will always be more information. There will always be more information that I don't know than the information that I know. Just like when archaeology, we have a very good grasp of the Roman times, the Kemetic times, and their histories, the Greeks, the Levant, African history. We have a plethora of knowledge about most civilization, ancient civilizations around the world. Tons of knowledge. But with everything everything we know about the Kemetic civilization, there's 1,000 times more information about their societies that we don't know, and we probably never will, because time will destroy information. You know, if a big ass meteorite the size of Texas hit Earth right now, 10,000 years from now, they would not have sufficient knowledge to truly know how we live today, what we thought today, unless they can the server hub. I forgot the was like three main server hubs. Unless that survives somehow, there's a lot of information they're not gonna know. What's your take on the knowledge of the premise of the flower of life? You know, there. So when I think about the flower of life, I think about the frequency and the energetic representation of the flower of life. This thing keeps showing up in nature over and over and over and over again. That symbology shows up all the time. Unfortunately, back in the day, they only thought about it two-dimensionally. Nowadays, we can think about it three-dimensionally and fourth dimensionally. But there has to be some higher levels of understanding of frequency and energy and that pattern that facilitates life, that facilitates, creation, everything, because it's in damn near everything. I think it's worth studying. And if we can figure out even just 0.1% of it, we would be able to, well, other than borrowing big money, we'd be able to make our life here a hell of a lot better. Uh, because within frequency and energy, everything can be healed or destroyed. And that's just a little bit of knowledge that we have on it. Uh, but it would be like kind of like how, like, well, I don't know how long it's been, but in our recent history, being able to map our DNA has allowed us to, if you wanted to have a child with certain attributes, you can have a child with certain attributes. As that science becomes more readily available and more precise, humans are going to be bigger, humans are going to be stronger, they're going to have less disease, they're going to live longer. Um, hey, little rabbit, because you're going to be able to uh, resequence somebody's genome in order to make us better, at our top abilities. And who knows what else comes with that? Who knows what mental abilities will come with that? Who knows what knowledge base? It'll be like kind of like Star Trek, right? If you look at, if you're a Star Trek person, these they doing astrophysics and they 10 years old. Yeah, and that's another thing. If we can harness it, we can release limitless energy and change the fabric of reality. Shit, even if they just figure out how to give it, well, Tesla did figure out free energy. If Tesla would not have gotten screwed over way back then, and free energy had became the thing, where would we be now scientifically when it comes to our understanding of energy and frequency? You see what I'm saying? So that the big hindrance of that is money. If no one can comprehend God, then why are you trying to say that the God of the Bible is God if he cannot be comprehended? But the Bible is making comprehension of this God. See, to me, those don't fit. I do agree that the pyramids were generators that created energy based on what Tesla was able to prove. Yep. Oh, big pharma. Look, big pharma, it does not even like the fact that this genome mapping is going to mess up their money. They trying. That's why they trying to get their money hard right now, because you cure some of these diseases that people are able to live with for the rest of their life. If you cure them, that's a lot of money lost. Like I told you guys before, when my uncle had contracted HIV back in the late '80s, I was like, Grandma, I don't know why you praying for a cure. They're never going to cure it. They're going to make it where you can live a normal life with it, and that's it. Never going to cure it. But now, if you can cure that, that's billions of dollars lost. If you can cure cancer, that's probably trillions of dollars lost. Some of these things they've cured, and they will fight you tooth and nail. Sorry, that rabbit just ran away real quick, like he saw something. So I'm checking. Cause my brother and them do have coyotes out that way, but usually at nighttime. Now here is something that me and Primer can agree on. The day I comprehend God is the day I am one. Because if you can comprehend, if there is a God that created everything, the day that you can comprehend it, it is the day that you become equal, pretty much equal to it. Because to comprehend a deity that created the universe, you would understand creation and how creation actually happens. And if you can understand how creation actually happens, then you can replicate that creation, therefore making you a god. Yep. Doctors are like mechanics, never fully fix a problem, so they can keep you coming back. I was mad when I had to get my brakes done, and I had to pay, instead of paying $170 for just some shoes, I had to pay to get the rotors. And I'm like, why do they don't have sensors on my car to tell me when the pads need to be replaced? That's just so they can get that extra money for them damn rotors. But I did find out that there are certain European cars that do have sensors for that. See, that's some bullshit. That's that money grab bullshit. All right. Not only making comprehension of God, but giving it a likeness that can be explained through human thought. And that would have to be the only way, because although language continues to develop, I don't think spoken language will never be able to fully express something to the level of creation. Hell, language doesn't even express the fullness of an emotion. Now, if I understood creation, I would be better than the God of these books. I'm with you, Trauma. I would be better than the God of these books. These books, guys, are horrible. You're saying energy created itself? No, I'm saying I have no idea how energy was created. Energy, as far as my knowledge base and anyone else, has been eternal. We have no idea how energy, but according to thermodynamics, energy cannot be created nor destroyed. It just transmute from one thing to the next thing to the next thing. But a beginning, I don't even worry about or try to waste my brain power on how it all started, because it's something that we would never know. You would just never know it. Whether we're looking at the singularities or we're looking at, even if some deity created, well, what the fuck created that deity? And we say the same thing. Well, that deity is eternal. So is energy eternal. So no one is going to be able to explain where energy comes from.
You still there?
Uh huh.
You still
Why?
I came looking for it. Where it go?
Who did?
Or
Hold on for a second.
he got the first one, or he's still showing me the second one.
Came looking for.
Are you ready?
Ooh.
Watch this. Hold on.
Yeah, get the first one there.
Hey, lady.
Get the first one. Hey, young
Who
man.
came looking?
Get the first one. Hold on a minute.
I ain't got a minute.
Oh, yeah. It was a bright light out back.
Uh-huh.
That's why I was around over my chair.
Oh, man, the aliens came looking for us, and we weren't in Wilmington. Let's see what he said.
Watch, look, watch this. Somebody there. And he said it came to the front.
That's the backdoor camera.
No, that was on the back.
Oh, okay. So evidently there was a swirling light over the chair that Angelina sits on in Wilmington when we're home, and we missed the swirling light. So the aliens was coming to get us, and we weren't there.
And it came to the front door too.
And it came to the front door, knocked on the door and everything. I ain't knocked on the door, but god damn it, we missed it. Anyway, let me get back to y'all. We are all, guys, just fragments of into microfractal vessels that are dynamically multiply reality systems. Time is an illusion, and we experience life through our own perception to give life simultaneously. And I can understand that, Daryl, um, because our consciousness in its complexity is in this vessel. Now, I don't get down with the whole Gnostic thing about, uh, the shit. I forgot the name of the damn thing where the evil guy created all this and is just trying to keep us trapped and don't let us remember who we really are. And the whole process is to remember who we are, y'all, to both, and remember who we are so that we can then go back to source, go back to the Plamora. Uh, I mean, it's a concept. It's good. They were thinking outside of the box at that time frame, but uh, then that still gives you the creation of the Plamora, which created Sophia, and then Sophia, then the Plamora and Sophia created the other little deity, but then that deity went and created our universe, our known universe, without the Sophia because it wanted to be God. What did the James Webb Telescope do to debunk what I just said? What did he do? Said they need that life force to you holding on to. What are these? What is that? The Silurians or the ones on the backside of the moon trying to suck up my life force and just keep sending me back? I do listen to some conspiracy theory people just to see the craziness that some of them come up with. Because one out of 100 might be right. And this is a very important thing. Okay, even if God exists, Christians can't prove that it is Yahweh, and you cannot. Because who's to say it's not fucking Quetzalcoatl or Anu? And really, it ain't even Anu because there was a primordial energy that Anu made it with, which was later on in the Babylonians called Tiamat. Has a different name with the Akkadians, Assyrians, and Sumerians. That is my billions of year theory. I have to look that up about James Webb telescopes. And when you're trying to say that the universe is not billions of years old, I doubt that very seriously. I doubt that very seriously. Oh shit. Well, I'm off TikTok, so I can. Where are my glasses? Let's see. Recent discoveries of the James Webb telescopes has observed galaxies actively forming in the early universe, feeding on cold gas. It also discovered the El Gordo galaxy cluster, which existed 6.2 billion years after the Big Bang. So it's existed 6.2 billion years after the Big Bang. Hmm. Hmm. Doesn't sound like it's proven that the universe didn't exist millions of years ago. It's saying that they found a galaxy cluster that existed 6.2 billion years after. The calculations are off. So there goes your 13.5 billion year time frame. When did you ever hear me give a time frame? When have I ever? I just used the general term billions of years ago. I've never given a time frame. But here's the thing, even if 6.2 billion years ago, your Bible story has the earth being created only 6,000 years ago. So where do you get? I've never said anything about 13 billion years ago. And that's just one galaxy, the El Dorado galaxy, which existed 6.2 billion years after the Big Bang, which means that it had to come into its formation and it took time for it to come into that formation. So it very well could have been the Big Bang happening 13, what'd you put, 13.5 billion years ago, because it could have taken the 7 billion years for the El Gordo galaxy cluster to come into existence, for it all to formulate and all the gases to get together and start formulating a galaxy. It could have taken 7 billion years for it to have come into its existence 6.2 billion years ago, because there is the 6.2 billion years after the Big Bang. See, that's critical thinking 101 right there. Just reading comprehension. See, you want to get with the 6.2 billion and say that, oh, that's how long it's been. But it takes time for a galaxy to come together. And right now, that it's an El Gordo galaxy cluster. See, it's just don't want to think through this stuff. All you gotta do is think through it. If you think through it, you'll get there. Just think. Use your brain. Use your brain. Let's see if you got anything else on here. And that was what it took me. What, 2 minutes? 2 minutes. And dude, you messing up your own stuff. There are galaxies that are older inside the line of sight. You adding time. I just added time. Now you adding some time. My goodness. And no, they don't want to talk about Pangea. They don't want to talk about the fact that it took millions of years for the Atlantic Ocean to be created from the separation of the continents. Um, it took millions of years for that. What they drift at, what is it, like 3 meters a year or some shit like that? I mean, not 3 meters, like 3 centimeters. And as far as we know, what we call humans, man, wasn't around during Pangea. And this guy didn't, there was already a creation when this guy started. I think that's what Isaac is saying. What's up, Isaac? How's San Antonio? Since you're hitting on creation myth, what do you think of the new interpretation of Genesis 1 through 3? When God began to create the heavens and the earth was without form and void. The darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved on the face of the water, meaning no creation out of nothing. Right. Well, this is where they are taking from the Sumerian story that Namu, I think that's the Sumerian name. Namu was the primordial waters, and then Anu came and made it with Namu and birthed out children that, and then separated and became the firmament. So this would be the over the waters, the primordial waters that were there. So this Genesis story is like there was already some water, some kind of water-based planetoid that was already there, and this guy then began to create with what it was already there. And if you read it, look at it in the Hebrew, it doesn't really say in the beginning. Um, it doesn't say when God. Well, no, actually, no, you got it right. When God began to create, yeah, when God began to create, right, the heavens and the earth. Not that He created the heavens and the earth, right? So that there was a reformation of what was already there, a transmutation thing going on. When you look at it from the Kemetic story, which they would have also known at that time frame, since they had been conquered by the um, Egyptians for about 300-400 years prior to the writing of these stories. In their story, Ra, after coming out of the cosmic egg, had Jeb and Newt, and Jeb and Newt were the salt water and the fresh water, but they was in such an embrace that he then had another daughter named Shu, the wind, that blew and separated Jeb and Newt, and therefore being able to create the land. So they had information to pull from in order to create this story. Man, your parents are crazy.
I went for a birthday.
Okay, I'm gonna have to look at that thing more deeply.
So it was two in the bag. But one sitting still and was one swirling back around. And then they said it was one big nut front there.
Okay.
I tried to not from the foot, but you got it.
You know that the 13.5 billion is an estimation. It's not a guaranteed time frame, but you're saying your telescope, which is not my telescope, I don't own it, is basically finding galaxies much bigger and older than there is time to develop, since the timeline is 3.5 billion years. See, the beauty of a person who studies science is that I'm willing to accept that the galaxy, the universe, could be the singularity that created our known universe could have happened 20 billion years ago, 30 billion years ago. The more and more we learn, then we adjust. That's the difference between religious people. The more and more y'all learn, or the people, y'all Bible believers, I'm gonna say, the more and more y'all learn, the less and less y'all adjust. Y'all ain't willing to adjust, but that's fine. You do you, and we gonna do we. The primordial waters are a reference to the electromagnetic waves. Terrence Howard divine. I understand. Boondocks, we be 50-50, bro. And part of that 50-50 on my other side of the 50 is that they didn't know anything about no damn electromagnetic waves back then. They looked at the waters as the waters. They didn't know that. And I'm with Terrence Howard on some of his stuff. He's when he talk about frequencies and harmonics, okay. When he was trying to say 1 times 1 equals 2, I was like, what the hell are you talking about, man? That's some punk ass math. Now I'm not the greatest mathematician, so maybe talking about some a way of thinking. I'm thinking he's just talking about in a different way of thinking and not in our. That's how I try to make it make sense. That it's just a different concept of that thinking and more reality based than just mathematically based. But those people didn't know. They were right when they wrote that shit. They meant that there was some waters, that the earth was some waters, and then the other waters and the wind came and blew them apart. They didn't know that they weren't trying to be allegorical about other stuff. But no, Jesus sent the ant to try to bite me, but Angelina saved me. She my savior.
I'll play the season.
All praise to Angelina. Now I could get down with you on this. Now this is where we are on the 50 side of agreement. The Sumerians didn't know, but the advanced civilization that existed before them did. I will accept the theory of previous civilizations prior to the Ice Age, which would put them about 30 to 50,000 years ago, uh, were probably a more advanced society that did have a greater understanding of the natural forces of the universe. And but shit, I don't even our civilization today wouldn't be able to survive in its fullness for a ice age that lasts. So the ice age would last about 25,000 years. We wouldn't be able to survive that, right? So um, I'm with you that a lot of this religious bullshit is based on that previous civilizations. But just like if something that cataclysmic happened right now, 25,000 years from now, they would not know this level of scientific achievement that we've had, just like we don't know the level of scientific achievement they had. We're rediscovering. So that's why I like to think that we are rediscovering what those civilizations had known. And maybe and this is where I can understand why you look at everything as um, allegories and metaphors, because they were trying to write it in a way that they can understand it, but they also took that shit literally. Now, some of them knew about zodiacs. When you study like the Aztecs' understanding of zodiacs wasn't something that one dude came up with during his lifetime, but it was a handed down process that they observed over multiple lifetimes of people until they came to the realization of it. In the same way today, scientists today are standing on the shoulders of the scientists 100 years ago, who stood on the shoulders of scientists 100 years before them, and so on and so forth. So over time, that information would have become more and more available, but it's through, you know, a couple of 100 plus years of observation that the Aztecs said that, you know what, there's a wobble, and the sun is moving through these star systems that we are drawing lines for, and create their own version of zodiacs. But it has been 3 hours, and that is my time limit. It's 3 hours. Uh, Plus, we got to go. We got to run a couple of errands. But I appreciate you guys. Look, here's the deal. We're gonna start doing more lives. Yeah, we're gonna start doing more lives, more than just the one a week on Tuesdays. We're gonna start doing more lives. So we will do another one on Tuesday, but I want to start doing at least 3 to 4 lives a week. Uh, Y'all gonna have to help me out on some subject matters, because although people think that this is like what I do all day, every day, and I spend my whole life studying, I went through that time frame where I spent my most of my time studying. I don't do that anymore. I spend most of my time enjoying my day, right? So um, make sure you send me on the back channels or emails or messages, the instant message. Send me what you guys would like to talk more about, dive deeper into, and we'll dive into those things. The next live, whether it be tomorrow or Monday, but most likely tomorrow, because Monday we're traveling, but we only drive like 2 hours tomorrow, Monday. Um, we're going to talk about, if you haven't seen that video for the Devil's Guidebook to the Bible, we're going to talk about that one, right? We're going to talk about that one. The zodiacs is nothing but that voodoo you got to believe in. I like how people try to say what we believe in, but it's interesting. Your Bible is filled with conversations about astrology, and y'all believe in astrology because y'all got magi, not three, but y'all got magi following a star in the east to find the baby Jesus. That's astrology, my guy. That's astrology. And lo, when this will be a sign unto you that the baby Jesus is born, as your Gabriel told the damn the shepherds out in the field. That sounds like astrology to me. And Prima, if you knew anything about how the algorithms work, you really don't make any money off live videos, my guy. You don't. That is why, uh, if I wanted to make, if anybody on here wanted me to make money on this thing, then the videos that I produce, the non-live videos, those are the ones I would like for you guys to share the most, watch the longest, because those are the ones that the algorithm actually pays people on, pays them more on. So you can say what you want to say, and even if it was, so the fuck what? So the fuck what? Y'all act like people aren't supposed to. Y'all don't say nothing about the preacher making all his money. Y'all don't say nothing about your biblical apologists writing their books and making their money. You don't say anything about the people who write what you want them to write or say what you want you to say about them making money. But then you want to try to make it seem like people like myself and Kevin and all these other people are evil because we, have monetized our channels. I don't. You damn right, I monetize my channel, and that's why. Oh shit! I'm glad you. Thank you, Prime, because you reminded me. I gotta find that Joker because I told him he better have made videos and published them videos by the time I got here to Atlanta. Otherwise, I'm cussing him out. Because I want all of y'all. If you have the ability or you have the desire to create a channel and then build that channel up to monetize it, you damn well should. Every last one of y'all, you should. Hell, Primer, I would even tell you, there are more people out there who will probably follow you than would follow me because they want to be validated in their Christianities and all their other entities. Make a goddamn channel. Why not? You should. But the difference between me and them pastors, I don't ask y'all to do shit. I don't ask you to send me your money. I don't want your money. I'm not asking for your money. Just share the channel. Subscribe to the channel. Follow the channel. Watch the damn commercials. At least 3 seconds past the skip button. Watch the commercials. So you damn right. I have always said I would love to be able to live my life, uh, just talking for a living. I wanted to start doing that when I got out of the Marine Corps, but I had 3 kids that I need to take care of, and so I'll be damned if I have built I built companies. So now at this point where I don't necessarily need to do this to make money, I would most assuredly spend my time because I can do this until I'm old and dead, right? And I want all y'all to get out there. And I try to promote people. I don't know what JRO Design must do something. What do you do, JRO? I know you told me before, but y'all know it's too many people, y'all. I be forgetting shit. We ain't gonna sing a song in Thai. Don't get the music playing. All right, I need everybody to hit them super chats and give those stars. Don't just give 1 star. 1 star is just a penny. Man, it's hot out here. 1 star is just a penny. So I need y'all to. I need some music playing. I just don't want this to get demonetized. That's why I'm not playing music. Let me get you emotionally built up with song. Get that vibrate. Think about that. I know I'm supposed to be getting off here right now, but think about that. They start playing the music and get you hyped up emotionally because they know the vibration and the frequency of the music hits people's emotions so that they will give more money. Right? That's some cricket. That's some subliminal messaging kind of thing to do to people. And then most of them don't have the money that they shouldn't be giving that money because they can't pay their damn bills. Hell, if anything, I try to tell y'all how to make more money and then how to save money, how to use my budgeting system so that you can uh, keep your accounts positive and invest. Which I'm curious, any of y'all been investing like I've been telling y'all to invest? Um, what do I think happens after we die? I think our consciousness creates whatever universe that we creates whatever situation in the universe that we truly, 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 truly believe would happen. If you think you're going to hell, you'll create your own hell. If you think you're going to a heaven, you create your own heaven. But it's what your true consciousness believes, not that shit that people say out their mouth, but that true one. Our consciousness is too complex to be a blade of grass or a butterfly or some shit like that. Or it could just expand out and become part of the universe, and it's the entire consciousness dissipates. Don't know. And honestly, guys, I really don't care what happens after this life because I don't know what happened in the previous life. I don't know the energy that created my consciousness. I don't know where the fuck it came from. And I've had visions and I had dreams and that seemed like past lives and all this sort of thing. And I could attribute that and say that, well, that must be it. But the true thing is, you don't know. You don't know. And because I don't know and wouldn't even know, like, if my consciousness does come back to this earth, which I'll be pissed right now, I would be pissed, but I wouldn't even know that I used to be me, right? Bro, if you believe that people tithe freely, I need you to take a class on marketing. People do not tithe freely, uh, for the most part. There is a whole system designed to get people to give more money and to give money, right? Just the fact that you have to give money, that your Bible tells you to give money, is part of that system. But then there are other marketing mechanisms that are put in place in order to get people to get emotional about giving money. And shit, I've talked to many pastors who talk about in private how that system has to work in order for people to give more money. Okay, so you bought commercial property and you're renting it out. That's what's up, Primer. Good, 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 good. There's no reason for, if you live in an industrial society, you need to be investing in. Property is one of the greatest investments. Yep, people are tithing out of fear. If you don't want to invest in property, dump as much money as you possibly can in like a good van. And I'm not a financial advisor, but like the Vanguard S&P, if you can dump a bunch of money into that every pay period for the next 20, 30 years, your retirement, you should be good to go. I don't want none of y'all to be struggling. No, I don't want anybody who listens to me to struggle financially, because you shouldn't. You shouldn't. But it takes a certain amount of willpower to be able to do it. And it's horrible that we're not really given that or taught that at a very young age. Now, there was one church I did like it. They never asked for tithes in the same way. They always just they had little, and they never did a tithe collection. They would just say, um, "Hey, at the end of service, if you like the way the church is going, you want the church to stay here and stay open, give. If you don't want to give, don't give." And and the boxes, the things were outside, in the vestibule area and all in the hallways. Uh, that's the only church I've ever seen that. I ain't never seen any other church that don't go through a production to get your money. Yeah, the greater your willpower, the sooner your blessing will come. Exactly. I agree with that, Trauma. Okay, okay, okay. I gotta get out of here. I gotta get out of here. I gotta get out of here. Because we gotta pretty much drive around the whole damn city. Yeah, because we gotta go Stone Mountain, then Marietta. And I gotta remember that dude's name. Crimson. Crimson. Yeah, I noticed his ass wasn't on here. He probably wasn't. If Crimson, if you're on here but you scared to say something because you know I'm gonna cuss you out if you haven't start publishing your videos, know that I know that you on here and you should be publishing those videos. They ain't got to be perfect. Stop waiting to be perfect to publish your stuff. But I know your ass is on here, Crimson. Are you gonna watch this shit later? And you were supposed to meet us last week, Saturday, Crimson. You were supposed to meet us at Stone Mountain Public House. So do we come back here? I don't want that. Yeah, I don't think anybody want to come back to this earth. What state are you in that is still bright? I'm in Georgia right now. We'll be in Tennessee Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Shit, where you at, Casey? That is dark. What time is it? It's 7:43. Shit. Do a stream on wealth and investment ideas. Okay. I'm trying to say you think you just go to sleep. Do a stream on the TX code that you should be reading. Oh, tax code. I, I'm gonna hit y'all with some tax stuff because I read the Pub 70 every year. Um, it's not even a real side hustle because I don't do it as much as I used to. But back in the day, I used to make about $20,000 a year just doing people's taxes. How's writing the book going? I didn't write while I was on the boat. I thought I was gonna write while I was on the ship. Took my laptop and everything, but we were just having too much fun time sitting on the dock of the boat. Sitting, I mean, not the dock, sitting on the decks, just chilling. Met this cool couple that we hung out with. Oh, that's right, Casey, you're in Barbados. No, you're a lot further east than I am. So, but yeah, actually, I just saw it. I will do one about the tax code. I'm gonna bore the shit out y'all a little bit, but tax code is good. Like that's why everybody should have an LLC. If you ain't got an LLC, you need one because you ain't taking advantage of all these tax benefits that you should be. Why would you come to Georgia and leave beautiful Barbados? I have no idea. Um, I know we are taking another cruise in October, but it's not going to Barbados. It's going to Aruba and Curacao and the DR. But the storm ain't hit us yet. A lot of clouds. Anyway, I gotta go. Gotta go. Gotta go. Gotta go. Stop. Stop. Y'all stop saying stuff. What's a LLC? LLC is a limited liability company. Um, so you form a limited liability company. Now, there's certain ones you want to form, certain ones you don't. Like you don't want to do a C corp, you want to do an S corp. Um, that way you file your taxes with your personal taxes. You get C corp benefits, but you don't have all the restrictions of a C corp or a lot of the paperwork of a C corp. But like I don't know what you do for a living now, but let's say um, like a lot of the guys who taxes that I did with, all the guys who taxes I did were IT people. So all of them set up an IT consulting firm, and that way they don't have inventory that they need to be in control of, because if you have inventory at the end of the year, you have to pay taxes on that inventory. Um, but we would use their LLC in order to write off certain taxes, and like one would be their house, not in the way that you so how you write off your house with just the mortgage. They also put the house in their company name, and then they rent the house to themselves so that they can take advantage of additional tax privileges. When you see some of these people buying these big ass boats and expensive cars, oftentimes they're buying them towards the end of the tax year in order for it to be a write-off. Um, like my car is a write-off, my motorcycle is a write-off, everywhere I live is a write-off. Going on that cruise was a write-off because I shot videos for this channel, the cigar channel, and our travel channel um, while we were on that cruise. So it becomes a write-off. So you want to be able to take advantage of the tax code. And there's a lot. It's not that hard, and you should never be scared of the IRS. The IRS is a bunch of punks. Um, if you know how, if you do everything the correct way. But that's a whole nother conversation that we're not about to start. But we will do one about LLC start, and what you should do and how you should set it up, and then what you should, things you should do throughout the year to take advantage of it. So until then, I will see y'all either tomorrow, probably tomorrow. Uh, so y'all have a great day. Remember, always, you got to free yourself, be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations. Yep, you turn to it every. No, no, yes, you turn. Y'all can talk. I'm out. Turn to